Presenters live on air, gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News. Hello, are you the famous Sue?
The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
You just tuned in, where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very good evening, very good morning to you in the UK, live from Washington, DC. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America.
I get pictures and videos from the community. I zoom in at the bodies, the legs, the clothes that can be seen to try and identify is that my own family. And every single Jew in our community did that yesterday.
Breaking tonight, there are going to be an extra 100 police officers to safeguard the Jewish community. This is, of course, after a number of anti-Semitic attacks, most recently in Golders Green, where 2 Jewish people and a Muslim, of course, remember, were stabbed. Also tonight.
We put on sort of brave face, stoicism through treatment. Treatment's done.
Yeah.
So I can crack on and get back to normal again.
Also breaking tonight, great news for Princess of Wales. She's going away without the husband or the kids for her first international trip since her cancer diagnosis. We'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Plus,
they should wave the white flag of surrender.
they should wave the white flag. That was President Trump earlier today giving an update on the Iran war. And if you take away anything from this show tonight, it should be this.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have Kamikaze Dolphins, but I can confirm they don't.
That's right, Kamikaze Dolphins, the big issue of the night in the studio. Later in the show, I'm going to be joined by a military weapons expert who will answer the question, are there actually dolphins being used as part of the Iran war? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Very warm welcome to you. Joining me in the studio this evening, very familiar faces. In fact, when they told me who the panel was tonight, I said they're like comfortable slippers, these two. It's Greg Swenson, Chair of Republican Overseas, a journalist and broadcaster, Angelina McCann. They've both been on this show from week one, which is brilliant. And in London, they said it's also Paul Cox. And I said, he is the fluffy dressing gown of the panel world. I am so happy to have you all here with me this evening, guys. We've got a very busy show to get through. Now, let's start with this breaking news. It was embargoed just until now. The Metropolitan Police has an extra 100 police officers to help safeguard the Jewish community after a stabbing attack in Golders Green left 2 Jewish people fighting for their lives. The force said it would bring together neighbourhood policing, specialist protection and counter-terrorism capabilities to provide a more visible, intelligence-led and coordinated presence focused on protecting Jewish communities across London. Meanwhile, the Director of Public Prosecutions has said that hate crime prosecutions are set to be fast-tracked due to a deeply troubling rise in anti-Semitic incidents. Stephen Parkinson issued this guidance to prosecutors, saying any supporting evidence can be obtained subsequently once the evidential threshold for a charge is met. Here he is.
And I'm doing it for 2 reasons. One is to provide assurance to the Jewish community that we will act swiftly and robustly when faced with this behaviour. But I also want people to know that evidence of threats and abuse causing that impact will almost certainly be prosecuted. It is a criminal offence. Casual abuse of this kind is corrosive in society. It threatens the security and safety of communities. And the criminal law is there to...
Panel in just a moment, and I want to hear from you at home, of course, gbnews.com/your say. But let's talk to GB News presenter Josh Howie, who's been very vocal on this topic. Josh, you live in this area, I believe, in North London, and you know firsthand what it is like to be living in the UK at the moment with so much hatred towards Jewish people innocently going about their business. How do you greet this news of 100 more police officers specifically to look after Jewish people?
I think it's terrible, Bev. I think it's terrible. I wish it wasn't happening, but also I think that this is the wrong policy. It's frustrating because those 100 police officers, if they were maybe sent to mosques that are preaching hate, then maybe that would have an impact. If they had been at the marches for the last 2.5 years and they'd actually done their jobs and arrested the people who had called for the death of Jews, then maybe we wouldn't be having Jews being murdered outside synagogues and stabbed randomly in the street. So it just feels like, and also it's not the kind of society that I want to live in. Already there's security guards out in front of my children's school every time I go to synagogue. There's security guards out there. If you go to the JW3, which is a kind of Jewish theatre space, there's guards there. That's not what the UK should be about. It shouldn't be that we need, to protect the Jewish community, we need higher walls and more police. No, I want to live like everybody else lives in this great country without needing extra police protection. Let's deal with where the hate is coming from.
And yet again, Josh, I'm reading some of the statements that have come with this story. As we say, it was embargoed until 1 minute after midnight now, as I talked to you there in the UK. They're talking about bringing together neighbourhood policing, specialist protection, counter-terrorism capabilities. They're talking about this growing pandemic of anti-Semitism. And then they say that these are Jewish people who are on hate lists of every major extremist movement, and they put it in this order. Extreme right-wing groups is top of the list, apparently, according to a spokesperson for the Met Police, Islamist terrorists, elements of the extreme left, and hostile state actors. And there, it is quite unusual that they actually mention Islamist terrorists, because that seems to be a huge part of this conversation, Josh, which gets ignored, and it's the elephant in the room.
Of course it is. Yes, look, the far right are horrible. They hate Jews. They are absolutely a danger. And the far left are the same thing. But the reality is that this violence that we've seen directed at Jews has come from Islamists. It has come from the followers of Islam. Now, that isn't something that I say to spread bigotry. That's just the reality. If you look at who attacked and kidnapped and tortured a Jewish man, 3 Muslim men, who stabbed and killed and resulted in the murder of 2 men in front of a synagogue last Yom Kippur. 1 Muslim man. The attacks on synagogues, fire bombings, who last week or the week before went up to randomly just a man who's Jewish and started screaming at him, a Muslim man. This hatred is coming from, in these instances, a very specific place. They are from within the Muslim community, obviously not all of the Muslim community, but that is where this hate has been directed from. And if you look back further, it's coming from mosques. Again, not all mosques, but there is so much evidence of hate and the call for the death of Jews coming out of mosques in the UK, and essentially nothing has happened. There has been no real pushback against that learned hate. And that's where these resources should be pushed into, not just for the Jewish community, but also for the rest of the UK, because you have intolerance being taught not just towards Jews, but towards all non-Muslims from these hate preachers. And that is where the police and the CPS should be directing their resources. And when you have, and you just played a clip there of the CPS, the head of CPS, saying how they were going to be fast-tracking prosecutions. Well, Jewish community have been screaming and shouting for this for years. You know what? Not even just fast-tracking, just please just do something. You have cars of men driving through North London calling for the rape of Jewish mothers and daughters, and the CPS didn't charge anybody. So great, now you're going to fast track it. Well, what about just tracking it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. Thank you so much, Josh Howitt there. We're going to move on quickly to our next guest, which is former Met Police Officer Chris Hobbs. Chris, in answer then to some of Josh's questions there, do these cases need to be fast-tracked? Don't they just need to get solved anyway? And my other concern about this is when they're talking about the fact that they're going to fast-track these cases, there are hundreds of women who are waiting for rape cases to go to court, and they've been sat waiting for 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. Why aren't they also important? It's amazing how they can make a political point when they want to about this sort of crime, religious crime, and fast track these issues. What's going on here, Chris?
Well, basically what we're looking at is a collapse of the criminal justice system in its entirety, and this has been on the cards for years. The last government absolutely slashed policing. It slashed the Crown Prosecution Service. It closed courts. It wrecked the system. And now we're paying the price for that. You talk about 100 or 300 extra officers. Well, of course, there are no extra officers. These are officers that will be moved from other parts of the Metropolitan Police to deal with this particular crisis. And absolutely rightly so. As far as not doing anything at marches is concerned, I've actually attended every single Palestine Solidarity Campaign march to observe what's going on and report on it. Now, to be fair, it's very difficult for the police. It's not all 10 or 15,000 chanting about the Intifada. It's little pockets of them. You've got Jewish groups on these protests. You've got a Jewish sect on these protests. You've also got, yes, extremists, but plucking them out, getting the evidence, and then putting it before the CPS, hoping the CPS is going to do something with it, is something else. And let me add one other thing. Golders Green Police Station was a fully functioning police station until 2013. Then, under Boris and the government, they closed it. It was replaced with a little police office that currently, according to the Met Police website, has 1 sergeant, 1 PC and 2 PCSOs. Now, that was down to the last government and to cuts and to denude a place like Golders Green of its police station and most of its police officers. was absolutely disgraceful. And now basically we're trying to build things back up, a metropolitan police that is in crisis, where you've got 51% on the last staff survey who were leaving or looking to leave the metropolitan police because they were so fed up. So I don't know about the extra officers. The commissioner really needs to hold on to what he's got, because they are going.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. Former Met Police Officer Chris Hobbs there. Let me bring in my panel. Greg Swenson, when you're listening to this, you spend a lot of time in London. I just find it amazing that they can suddenly find these police officers and they can suddenly make a song and dance about it, and the press releases come out about how they're doing so much for the Jewish community. It's so transparently tokenistic, and they're not dealing with the issue properly.
Of course not. And I mean, they'll maybe scratch the surface. It's too little, too late, arguably. Maybe it's better than nothing, but as you and Chris pointed out, they're taking it from other parts of the city. I mean, we don't have that. We can't afford that.
There's not like 100 freshly trained police officers with expertise in anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and he's got a point about closing police stations. That's crazy. I mean, there's a little broken windows theory in here. If you enable, you know, like in New York when they talked about broken windows back in the 90s, if you enable small crimes to happen, jumping over a subway turnstile, or, you know, breaking a window, or painting graffiti. Well, in London, they enabled the jihadists. I mean, they let them march and cry for, you know, global intifada every Saturday. That made all Londoners, not just, but especially Jewish Londoners, but all Londoners really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very much enabling.
What do you think about this, Angelina, when you listen to the fact that the government are now, because we have this problem, giving these extra police officers? Is it going to make any difference?
I mean, it is really frustrating that you don't see the police taking active measures in preventative crime, right? That's what's better for society. What's community policing look like in the UK? I'm not sure. I can speak on it a bit more in the US, but again, what is that community? What are they like in the field? Are they connecting with people? You know, what type of preventative measures are taking place when it comes to crime? And I know that, you know, that also plays back to your healthcare system. You guys aren't really good at preventative healthcare. All you're doing is reactive, and that's often, and maybe governments, like, they act like this in general. They're often reactive and they're not focused on preventive or preventive measures.
Yeah.
So,
what, in terms of like the police stations being closed, because that's one of the things they've said here, more community policing. Well, it's quite difficult when all the police stations are closed. Do you still have police stations here? Have they closed down in the US like they have in the UK?
Well, yes, there was a big defund the police movement. Remember that during Black Lives Matter, and so now the morale at these, especially at the big city police forces, is horrible. So we're down, you know, several hundred police in Chicago, and even though they've changed the policy, they can't hire any more police because the morale is so bad. The other thing that Josh brought up, which I thought was critical, was the mosques. And there are these radical clerics that are preaching hate, even dog whistling, like the Tory MP that died a few years ago, David Amis. He was killed by a jihadist that was encouraged in his mosque. You know, they use code language, so they don't say go out and kill a Tory MP. They just use code and or dog whistles or whatever. But it really is outrageous that we still in the UK allow these mosques to exist.
Yeah. Paul Cox, let me bring you in. So this is a big announcement, of course. This is what the government are doing to help Jewish people, an extra 100 police officers to protect Jewish communities that are, well, like we've said, they're not freshly minted police officers trained to deal with anti-Semitism. These are just being relocated into areas where Jewish people need them, and it just feels ridiculous.
So many questions. Where were they before? What were they doing? What gaps are they leaving behind as a result of being moved over there? Why wasn't this proactive instead of reactive? It's like putting a burglar alarm on a house after it's been burgled. And also, this is the perfect storm, isn't it? You've got people obfuscating what the real problem is. Josh covered it perfectly when he talked about the trifactor of the far right, the far left, the things we already know, and the Islamist issue. We've got a whole authority of people in this country that refuse to admit there's an issue, and an anti-Semitic issue vibe that runs all the way through the left and far left. Right now, as I sit here in London, in 2 days' time, or less than 2 days' time it is now, there'll be local elections where in this city Greens will take large swathes of council seats from the Labour Party. And the Greens are inherently anti-Semitic, largely because they fall into this category of people that absolutely hate any form of capitalism, any form of colonialism, they're against white people. All these, they form this idea of the oppressor versus the oppressed. This all falls very comfortably into anti-Semitic tropes, and they're the first people to deny it, and they're going to be the people in charge of fixing the problem. The problems we have now are just about to be tenfolded.
Well, the Green Party aren't here to defend themselves, Paul, and they would absolutely deny that that is their political ambition, particularly any allegations of anti-Semitism. But thematically, big business and how that is affecting the smaller man on the street is absolutely playing into these local elections. We could dig into that on another day because I think that is very interesting. But right, moving on, guys, we're going to take a quick break because breaking in the last few moments, actually, President Trump has said the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz will be paused. He's just made this announcement on Truth Social. Based on the request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we've had during the campaign against the country of Iran, and additionally the fact that progress has been made towards a complete and final agreement with the representative of Iran, we've mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and affect Project Freedom, the movement of ships will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalised and signed. We will work out what he means and what that might mean, particularly for us and our petrol prices in the UK. Don't go anywhere. This is a Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
back to the Late Show Live with me, Bev. Now, American President Donald Trump has criticised Iran's military capability and issued this warning following attacks in the Strait of Hormuz today, on Monday. This.
They should wave, they're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but essentially that's already what they are. They should wave the white flag of surrender. In hockey, they say, uncle, right? When are they gonna cry uncle?
What do they need to do to violate the ceasefire?
Well, you'll find out, because I'll let you know. They know what to do, and they know what to do. They know what not to do, more importantly, actually. And
well, this afternoon, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was sent out by the President to talk to the press in the White House in what was the administration's third update on the Iran war today.
We have a blockade because they shut down the straits. So I don't know which members of Congress you're talking to, but here's what I would ask them. I would ask everybody here. It's very simple. These guys have shut down the Straits of Hormuz. This is what Iran is saying. We will shut down the straits. No one can go through. No country in the world can go through unless we allow you to go through, and you have to pay us. But our ships can go through, meaning the Iranian ships, as much as they want. That's crazy. Who would agree to that? So how are we going to have a situation where they get to close the straits to everybody, and the only people who are allowed to go through there 100% without paying anything are the Iranians? If you do that, they'll keep the straits closed forever. They're trying to make this some new normal. Okay, under no circumstances can we ever allow them to normalize the fact that they get to blow up commercial ships.
You might have noticed that that is not Caroline Leavitt. Obviously, she's now off on maternity leave, so various cabinet ministers secretaries will be doing that job instead. And he was amazing today, Marco Rubio. He's such an impressive politician. Well, earlier in the day, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth insisted the fragile ceasefire was not over, despite the attacks, whilst also addressing speculation of so-called kamikaze dolphins. We're going to explore what he meant by that later in the programme, and I'm joined by a military weapons expert. But in the last few moments, President Trump has said that the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement with representatives of Iran can be finalised and signed. But for the latest details on what's happening in the Middle East, let's speak now to co-founder and Chief Technical Officer of Magnet Defence, George Wallner. George, very good evening. Thank you for joining us. Now, obviously, that's a breaking news, that statement from President Trump saying that the movement will be paused for a short time to see whether or not the agreement with Iran can be finalised and signed. What's your assessment of that statement, George? Where does that take this conflict?
Well, this conflict is a new phase of warfare. The Iranians are relying on their mosquito fleet. The U.S. Navy very successfully destroyed the primary fleet Iran had, but the secondary fleet, what's called the mosquito fleet, is still there, and it still poses a threat to both commercial shipping and the U.S. Navy. So the U.S. Navy has to move slowly and carefully. But the Iranians are mistaken. They believe that they can harass the U.S. into submission. That is just not going to happen. The mosquito fleet today, because of asymmetric warfare, does enjoy an advantage. Not because the U.S. Navy cannot deal with them, but because it's expensive and risky. This will be overcome. There are now companies such as Magnet Defense who are testing solutions to the mosquito fleet, testing equipment that will be able to destroy the mosquito fleet cheaply, effectively, and without putting people and expensive ships at risk. So whatever advantage Iran thinks that they have is very, very temporary. And they better listen to President Trump because he means what he says. And just as Marco Rubio said, it is unacceptable to have the straits closed to all shipping except Iranian shipping. These waterways are under international laws, and they should be open to commerce at all the time. Nobody would accept.
When you say mosquito fleet, are you just when you say the mosquito fleet, you mean drones and helicopters as well? Is it small aircraft, effectively?
I mean small boats, like just think of 20 to 30-foot boats with outboard engines, very low profile, very fast, equipped with machine guns and small missiles. And of course, also some drone boats that are robotic boats that are programmed to attack ships and damage them either with missiles or with guns. They are dangerous. There's no doubt about it. They're very dangerous. But the U.S. Navy can deal with them. It's just expensive and risky. But new weapons are coming out that will destroy these boats because they ultimately are easy to destroy, but there are just many of them. So just like a sledgehammer is not the right tool to deal with mosquitoes, a large Navy destroyer is not the ideal tool to deal with the mosquito fleet.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, George, for that explanation. Chief Technical Officer of Magnet Defence there, George Wallner. Let me bring my panel in on this as well then, Greg. President Trump just wants this sorting out, doesn't he? And when I talk to people from the defence industry like that, you realise it's making some people a huge amount of money into it, and this is why the public in countries all over the world get a bit frustrated with these conflicts, because they feel like there's vested interests who are benefiting from it, and the oil companies as well. It looks, temporarily at least, are making some significant profits at the moment. How concerned will President Trump be with that perception that some people are benefiting from this?
Well, yeah, look, I think there's not a majority support for the conflict right now. His polling numbers are in the 30s regarding the Iran conflict, but the president is brave and willing to sacrifice political capital for doing the right thing. So we will win this war. There's no doubt about that. And these mosquito boats, they're, you know, as George said, it's a nuisance, but this is not even the short pause that we just saw from President Trump. That's just diplomacy. That's just Pakistan trying to help create, you know, put a deal together. But this is not diplomacy now or negotiating. This is surrender management. This is really what Iran, the regime, is up to right now, is surrender management.
Do you see it like that, Angelina? Surrender management at the moment, how to give the Iranians maybe an off-ramp, saving a little bit of face?
I definitely don't think that. I think that the Iranians are incredibly stubborn. Also, just like look at how they've rallied together in response to America. The Iranians, yeah, there are some who are against the regime, but there are other, and a lot of Iranians who are very supportive of the regime. There's a reason they've been able to hold power for so long in that area, right? And common in the Middle East when we're participating in asymmetrical warfare, a tactic is for the other side to hold out until one side loses patience or resources, and that's exactly what we're doing in America. You know, they're saying that our weapons are depleting, that we're losing weapons. So who's really winning the war? And people keep saying, also I keep hearing this, that Iran has nothing, they've lost everything. They're literally holding a strait. They literally have the power of the Strait of Hormuz, which is huge. It's a huge, and it impacts the globe economically. Obviously, we all know that. So they do have something on their side. They do have something to negotiate with. They do have some power. In the meantime, they're depleting U.S. weapons. So what does winning look like? And I think we really need to understand that, because in the meantime, Trump's over here, you know, fighting this war over in the Middle East. But, you know, what are we making ourselves vulnerable here back home?
Yeah, Paul, it feels like we're in this sort of calm period, still in this conflict now. And I don't know if this helps President Trump, helps America, helps us all. I still feel like I can't quite get a clear vision on what success looks like and quite what is going on in that part of the world at the moment.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? If you just go back a few weeks, one of the reasons we're going to be sitting here to 3 a.m., Bev, is because the Iran war meant that our coverage expanded to try and cover that the best we possibly could. And of course now the news cycle has moved on slightly. It hasn't moved on for us. It certainly hasn't moved on for the people of Iran and those fighting out there, you know, in the US Armed Forces, etc., Israel included in that. But interesting, you said you don't know what success looks like. One of the reasons I find it difficult to identify that as well is because our paradigm of success and failure is measured from our perspective. Our worldview is vastly different for those that are in charge of the regime. You know, they could lose everything, but fighting the US is their measure of success. All the time they're continuing to fight the US, right the way down to the last man. They will consider that a success. We believe they're defeated. You know, we've taken out warships and missile launchers, and maybe even taken out an Ayatollah or two. But they won't see this. This is spiritual for them. We're not measuring them. They're not measuring us and their success by the same paradigm that we're measuring them, Bev. So it's incredibly difficult to figure out how this ends.
And actually, you've reminded me, Paul, of something that a guest said on this show a while ago, and I can't remember who it was. It was one of our brilliant Iranian experts. It was none of you three, no offence. It was someone like Ken Timmerman, or one of those proper experts on Iran who've lived and breathed this topic for years. And he said that subsequent presidents and prime ministers across the world have always treated Iran like an equal, and they've tried to communicate with them as a country that's on an equal footing, and we neglect, like you say, Paul, at our peril, that spiritual dimension of wishing death to the West, because that underpins how far they will push it, and frankly that's a lot further than probably we would. Right, thank you guys. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live is this.
We put on sort of brave-faced stoicism through treatment. Treatment's done.
Yes.
So I can crack on and get back to normal again.
Princess of Wales, she's got a few days away without the husband or the kids. It's her first international trip since her cancer diagnosis. Good for her. We'll tell you more about it in just a moment. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev Turner. Now, some more breaking news to bring you. This is why you watch The Late Show Live, because we get all the stuff that we're allowed to tell you just after midnight, whereas you'd have to wait until 6 o'clock in the morning to see the breakfast team otherwise. Now, the Princess of Wales is going to travel to Italy next week. She's going with the Royal Foundation Centre for Early Childhood, and this will be her first solo overseas visit since her cancer diagnosis. I bet she can't wait. She's set to spend 2 days in the northern city of Reggio Emilia. Is that how I pronounce it, Greg? Yes. Thank you. With a focus on early child development. He's got absolutely no idea. Her last official overseas engagement was in December 2022 when she attended the Earthshot Prize Awards ceremony in the United States. So this is really great news. Let's talk to former royal butler to the then Prince Charles and the host of Royals Uncensored podcast, Grant Harold. Grant, thank you very much for joining us this late hour over there in the UK. So great news that Catherine is packing a bag. She's going to Italy. What a wonderful place to go. Her first trip overseas since her cancer diagnosis. How much have we missed her on the global stage, Grant?
I mean, this is fantastic news. I mean, she's great at this kind of thing. And as you said, it's been about 3.5 years since she last did her official overseas. I mean, she's been overseas in 2023, but that wasn't considered any official royal business. Obviously, this is the first in 3.5 years. And it's great news because I think it gives an indication, obviously, that, you know, as we know, and as she had said about being in remission, she spoke about wanting to get back into the normality of work and royal life. And we've seen, I mean, certainly over the last several months, we've seen her undertake normal royal duties again. And it's quite nice to kind of think that she's confident and comfortable enough to actually go and do this overseas tour again on her own. It's only for a few days. She's only gone for a couple of days, but still, it's a big step.
And how demanding are these trips? I mean, look, they fly in very luxurious conditions. They get very well looked after, obviously, wherever they go. But can it be quite draining on the royals?
It can. I mean, I really feel, especially with the king just undertaking his role, I mean, that would have completely exhausted anybody, let alone somebody in his, late 70s and also going through what he's going through. Yeah. Now, for Catherine, obviously, she's a lot younger, hopefully in good health now. And so it's easier, if I can say that, probably for her. But at the same time, it takes a lot out of you. And yes, it's great how to get to, to kind of travel. Of course it is. I mean, I've witnessed that firsthand, but I've also witnessed how full on it is. I mean, I remember once making the funniest mistake of saying to her father-in-law, I hope you have a nice vacation, when he was going to Philadelphia many, many, many years ago. And I remember he said to me, do you think it's a holiday? It's not a holiday. And that's a really good point. It's not. It's certainly not a holiday. I mean, they get very little time to themselves, and she's only there for 2 days, so she'll get very little downtime. She might get a little bit, but very little. Yeah. And and this is also passionate. For her, it's a passionate thing because it's to do with early childhood, which is something she's very passionate about. It's charity she founded in 2021. So she'll put everything into this because this is a big thing for her as well.
And did you say, sorry, Grant, I just missed you then. Did you say that was to Prince Charles, to her father-in-law? You made that joke.
Yes, it was tough. Yes, certainly. When I said have a lovely vacation, and he said it's not a vacation. Yeah. It's not a holiday.
Do you think that's part of the reason that Queen Camilla left America, left the state visit last week, and when he went on to Bermuda, she got on a British Airways flight and went home? I know that because she was on the same flight as me going home, coincidentally. But is that why she didn't go to Bermuda, do you think? Because Camilla, the Queen, was a bit I've done my bit, I'm going back home to put my feet up and have a gin and tonic now.
No, do you know what it is? Obviously, there was maybe several reasons. The Duchess might have had personal commitments. You've got to remember also, like the King, she's got her own family, she's got her own grandkids. There might have been something that she wanted to get back for. Maybe it just was a case that she was never meant to. But of course, it is. I'm sure she was thrilled at the idea of being able to kind of get back a little bit earlier because, for the King, I did feel for him having to do those extra few days. But I mean, it's worth it while he's out there. It's easier for him to do that part of the visit than to come back home and then go back again at a later date.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're losing your line a little bit now, Grant, so I'm going to say goodbye and good night. Grant Harold, their former royal butler. Angelina, everybody last week at the state visit that I was talking to was saying, you know, it was great that King Charles was here, but then they were saying, oh, but we love Catherine and William. We love them. It'd be good for the royal family to get them both back on the road, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, America loves Princess Diana, and so I think the falling out with, you know, the king and that situation, definitely his the public opinion in America of the king isn't great. But with Princess Kate, you know, she was the you know, the Cinderella story, the girl,
the commoner.
Yeah, the commoner, and she, you know, she is incredibly gracious, and I think America definitely is more keen to her than the current king.
Yeah. What do you think about
It's great to have her back.
Yeah, it will be.
And compared to the Princess of Montecito that we have here in America, she polls even better. You know, it's even more dramatic. So she's, as Angelina said, she's extremely popular here in the U.S. And I mean, I remember my 10-year-old daughter, you know, we let her stay up all night to watch the wedding. I think that was 2011 or 2012. Yeah. She was, you know, a young kid, but even I remember back then, like every, you know, little girl in America was watching the wedding or at least following it.
Is The Crown a popular series in the UK?
The Crown?
The Crown is super popular here.
Yes,
The Crown.
very, very. And, you know, we remember those conversations. Let's get Paul Cox involved in this as well. We talked about it a little bit last week. I think it was Paul with the state visit. But, you know, there was all those conversations when the Queen died about whether William should just be the next monarch, whether we should have just bypassed Charles because of the unpopularity and the scandal that Angelina just alluded to. I think it's the best thing that we just let William and Kate have a little bit more time being relatively normal, because their time will come, won't it?
With a monarchy, you can't just, it's not a popularity contest, and unfortunately so, because sometimes we all have differing views. One thing that did bring us all together was the late Queen. 99% of people thought she was absolutely marvellous. There were a couple of difficult moments there throughout a very long reign. And, you know, of course, Charles waited the best part of 70 years to become king. And you're absolutely right. William and Kate deserve a little bit of time here, because it is going just, you know, they must know, as much as some of us might look on and think, oh, what a wonderful position to find yourself in life. I've never really thought that. I'm a huge monarchist. I love the royal family. But I've never thought, do you know what, I'd like to be part of it. Not once, because you imagine being in Will's position now. He knows what's coming his way. He's known it since the day he was born. So it's a difficult job, and you know, I'm sure he.
It is, and it's a gilded cage. It is a gilded cage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Want it either. But don't you also think, Paul, just on a basic level of being a mum of 3, I bet she can't wait to pack her bags next week, get a fake tan on, pack her bikini and have a little break from the family. I love fantasizing about how much she must be looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It might only be 2 days, but to her, that's going to seem like a wonderful eternity. Just the flight alone, just the travel to the airport without the kids is going to be a wonderful break. So good on her. Hope she enjoys it.
Especially that Louis.
Yeah,
I mean, we like a right handful.
We all think he's great, but yeah, he must be a right handful, like you say.
I think he's great as well. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. We're going to have a look at the front pages from tomorrow, today, your time. The Express has this unremovable, and it comes as a number of small boat migrants crossing the Channel is about to hit 200,000. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Just a quick break. Back in a minute.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Before we move on, I want you to hear Greg Swenson's Kate Middleton story. We were chatting in the break. Go on, Greg.
Yeah, okay, so we met. This is consistent with your speculation that she's really looking forward to having a few days away from the kids. So Mary Ellen and I met Kate in the Lots Road auction house 5 years ago, and she was on her own. She dropped the children off at a birthday party on a Sunday afternoon and then went for some alone time and to look at some antiques to buy. And because we were the only ones there, Mary Ellen approached her politely and said hello, and we ended up talking to her for 15 minutes. Charming,
that's amazing. So Princess
woman.
of Wales, she dropped the kids off at a birthday party on a Sunday in London and just went to buy some garden furniture.
Yeah. And because we're Americans, we didn't have to do the formalities. You know, we just said hi, and she was charming. I mean, we were very respectful, but you know, chatted about the children and talked about education, because my wife's family is in the education business, and Mary Ellen's involved. So yeah, it was great.
And she was saying it was nice to have a couple of hours without the kids.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she drove herself. I mean, she came in with the Range Rover keys in her hand.
Amazing,
so
amazing. Do you know what she bought?
I don't, probably, but she told us that she was looking for garden furniture, not indoor furniture.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, right, moving on. I wanted to share that with you. We often have a little gossip during the break. I wanted the audience to know that. Now, unremovable, says the front page of the Daily Express, a staggering 96,002 asylum seekers from Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq and Eritrea arrived in small boats between 2018 and 2025. Maybe not so shocking. However, only 0.5% of those, as 495 people, have been sent back to those countries in 7 years. That's what the Daily Express are leading on Britain's broken asylum system. Laid bare, figures reveal only 495 small boat arrivals from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran and Iraq have been deported since 2018. Paul Cox, I have no words. It just means this is just such a brilliant front page for anyone thinking about getting on a boat, because you basically are guaranteed to stay, aren't you? We're just a joke.
Yes, it's a terrible joke. Look, this is on the back of also another statistic that's probably likely to happen tomorrow, and that's 200,000 of these men would have arrived in the UK via this method in that time period as well. 200,000. And that's remarkable. This should be, irrespective of politics, a front page story, because for all intents and purposes, this is an invasion. It's an illegal invasion of our shores. And what's worse is we have political leaders that support this and don't see any real issue in it, and almost see it as just desserts for past misdemeanours. However, the simple statistic right here is that only 495 of those small boats arrivals from Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Iraq have been deported since 2018. Just 0.5%, Bev. I mean, why? How? What? You know, we can see. Look, you only have to look at the other front pages, particularly of some maybe of the right-wing papers, where they're talking about the real problems that are facing the UK, particularly when it comes to the issues that we saw around anti-Semitism. And we start, the whole picture is like a jigsaw. It starts to fit in. Look, I'm not saying that every asylum seeker is evil in some way, but it's undeniable that all the crime statistics that we are most worried about right now seem to have increased since this problem started. It doesn't take a genius, Bev. We have to do something about it.
No. There's no will, Greg, is there? We look at this country here where President Trump has absolutely nixed that issue at your southern border, and we are doing nothing about it.
It's remarkable, and you should take a few pages out of the playbook in the U.S., but it's not been perfect here. Remember, President Trump was elected in 2016 predominantly on anti-illegal migration. And so what did the Democrats do in 2020? Instead of moving to the center on the issue, they opened the border and let 10 to 15 million illegal migrants cross the border and then distribute them around the United States, mostly in sanctuary cities and states. And then, of course, President Trump won again in 24. So it hasn't been perfect here, but thank goodness for President Trump, because now he's shut the border down. The UK should take a page out of that playbook.
Yeah. 10 seconds, Angelina. When you look at the UK, your thoughts?
I mean, again, we talk about this at scale. The UK is a lot smaller compared to the US. And Trump, look, he shut down the border in order to get rid of Americans' drug problem, which is still very much alive in our population. So,
more work to do. OK, more to come in the next hour. See you in a minute.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have Kamikaze Dolphins, but I can confirm they.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, a very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For many, today's actually looking largely dry. There will be some sunshine around, but worth noting it's not dry everywhere. There are some outbreaks of rain across western parts, so parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, around Wales and southwest England. Also some outbreaks of rain coming in to eastern areas as well. In between though, yes, a lot of dry weather, some decent sunshine to be had as well, just nowhere near as sunny as it was this time last week. Temperatures are a bit lower than yesterday. That's because we have cooler air that's made its way down from the north. So we're only looking at highs around 15 or 16 Celsius towards the south and a few degrees lower than this towards the north. As we head into this evening, there is an area of low pressure to the northwest of the UK. It's staying quite far to the northwest, but nonetheless, things could be turning a bit breezier across northwestern Scotland. Some clouds, some outbreaks of rain, sunnier towards eastern and southern parts of Scotland, and some sunny spells across much of northern England too. A bit of rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and also eastern England. The Midlands having a decent amount of dry weather, but it's in the southwest as we go through this afternoon into the evening where we could see some heavy thundery showers developing developing, so do watch out for those. Then overnight, more cloudy, blustery, wet weather across northern and western parts of Scotland as that low pressure edges its way ever so slightly closer. Elsewhere, there'll be a bit of cloud across western parts, a bit of rain at times, but also some clearer spells. And similar to some recent nights where we get those clear spells, could be cold enough for a touch of frost in some prone spots. Most places, though, holding up a few degrees above freezing. And then into Thursday, a blustery, wet picture towards the northwest of the UK. Elsewhere, a bit of cloud across northern parts of England, some parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain too, and these pepping up a little bit across parts of Wales and the southwest. Further east for the Midlands, eastern parts of England, staying largely dry.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
we're here again to start your day just right. GB News breakfast,
Every morning from 6 a.m.
only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change, from the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Does Chopper need a coffee?
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening, good morning, live from Washington, D.C. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America.
Yeah, it's a day to celebrate the end of World War II in Europe.
A shocking new survey, is it that shocking? Tells us that just 2/3 of Generation Z, and I'll tell you how old they are in just a minute, know the meaning behind a Victory in Europe Day. Is it time for schools to do more to ensure that students understand key moments in history? And talking of schools, how safe are our teachers? A new report has revealed alarming threats being directed at teachers, not by the kids, but by the blooming parents. I'll tell you all the details about that shortly. Also tonight.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have Kamikaze Dolphins, but I can confirm they don't.
Kamikaze dolphins. Later in the show, I'll be joined by a military weapons expert who will answer the question, are there actually dolphins being used as part of the Iran war? We're also going to get an update on the Madeleine McCann case, which is extraordinary and frankly not getting the headlines it probably deserves. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Remember, no ad breaks. If you're just joining me, my panel this evening is the chair of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, and journalist and broadcaster Angelina McCann, and in London, GB News contributor, comedian, big valued member of the GB News family, it's our Paul Cox. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Now, some breaking news for you. Friday, May the 8th, marks Victory in Europe Day, but an alarming new poll has revealed widespread confusion about its meaning across Generation Z. So two-thirds of Gen Z don't know that VE Day marks the end of the Second World War in Europe. Now, I want one of you to be quickly Googling how old Gen Z are for me, please, because I always get my dates confused about this lot. The Opinium survey has found that 63% of adults did recognise the historic day, but that figure dropped sharply to just 34% amongst Generation Z, which are how old?
14 to 29.
Love you, Angelina. 14 to 29. Thank you. So GB News went out onto the streets of Britain and asked people, do you know what VE Day is?
Yeah, it's a day to celebrate the end of World War II in Europe. Victory in Europe was what VE Day is.
Is it like after World War II? To celebrate the fact that it was over.
Do you know what VE Day is?
Victory in Europe Day.
Great, and what is that?
Oh God. Does it mark the end of the war?
Yes.
In Europe?
Yes, that's correct. What do you make of the fact that two-thirds of Gen Z don't know that?
Says a lot. Says a lot about education in the country.
Do you know what VE Day is?
Victory in Europe Day.
Great, and do you know what that is?
When the war in Europe was won in World War II.
And how concerning do you think it is that two-thirds of young people don't know what that is?
Probably shows that history is not being taught well enough.
So that's basically the Red Puppy Day? No.
No?
Oh, wow. Okay, I must be wrong then.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I'm ex-primary school teacher, and we did teach it right the way through primary school, so Gen Z should know what it is.
I'd be very surprised, having been in education for 37 years in primary schools, both as a head teacher and a teacher. It was very much something that we taught.
Well, it's all a little bit depressing, really, isn't it? 14 to 29-year-olds, Generation Z, don't know what VE. Does it matter, Greg? Why does it matter?
Well, of course it matters, and they should teach civics and history in schools, and I think they're failing to do so, especially in the public schools or whatever, the state-run schools. And we have this problem in the U.S. And now, my daughter went to high school in the U.K., and I assure you, her school was teaching proper British history and European history.
She goes to private school in the U.K.
She did, yeah. And so, Church of England, all girls, very old-fashioned, but rigorous, extremely rigorous. But in America, we suffer the same challenges. The public schools, what we call public schools here, which are state schools in the UK, are just not teaching this stuff. They teach diversity, they teach, communism,
identity
and
politics,
and May Day, and let's go out to protest, because they've been co-opted by the teachers' unions. So it's not exclusive to the UK. We're suffering this in the US as well. I mean, Jesse Waters, made his career by doing that, going out on the street and asking young people easy questions.
Yeah. Angelina, would Americans know the equivalent? What would your equivalent be, I guess? Or this is...
I mean, D-Day, right? We do celebrate that. Or we are aware of what that is. That's June 6th. Of course, we have a Veterans Day, but that applies to all veterans. It's not exclusive to World War II. I think my question here would be, it's interesting because culturally, you see, who remembers World War II? Who was around during World War II? A lot of those people aren't around anymore. The veterans of World War II are very, very old. In the grand scheme of things, in terms of humanity, is this holiday really culturally relevant, and is it culturally sustainable over time? Will it, as the world, the rules-based world that we came out of from World War II is no longer that We're no longer following that world order. And that was a big moment, and that really defined, you know, the next several decades up into almost Donald Trump's second term, right? And so again, we're looking at how is it going to be able to stand the test of time, because if it's no longer honoring this new like rules-based world order, then what are we honoring? We're honoring these lives, but how is it relevant in modern culture, right? How is it any different from celebrating maybe another holiday from another time in which we no longer celebrate anymore that was based in that time frame? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the so-called greatest generation is really down to the last few men and women. My parents would be 105 right now, and they were World War II people. So, you know, we kind of grew up with it. It was just part of the culture. And you had, you know, it was Tom Brokaw, I think, who termed that, you know, greatest generation, probably in the early 80s. But I hope they keep teaching it. It's important, even though the people who fought in the war are no longer with us. But I think it's just so important to teach these kids.
It's so interesting, Paul Cox, isn't it? Because you realise the big question is, why does it matter, right? I genuinely, and I'm thinking if I was talking to my teenagers, they would possibly be a bit like, nah. I don't know, I might be doing them a disservice there. I might be doing them a massive disservice about what it would mean to them. 'Twas ever thus though, right? Every single generation, younger generation, has looked up to the elderly people who, like we said, not even that many of them will be alive anymore from that period of time, and say, well, it doesn't matter. Care factor 0 is what we might get. Why do we need to make that care factor a bigger number than 0?
Well, we absolutely need to remind people, of course, because today is very much repeating history. We look around Europe now, we look around the world now, we're very fragmented. We're on the verge of all sorts of wars all around the place. It's very interesting what Angelina said, because I would have said a similar thing, and that's that, Bev, take you and I, and Greg by the sound of it, we're actually parents of Gen Zers. So, you know, we never saw that war, and actually it was our grandparents. Interesting to hear Greg say his parents would have been 105. Greg, you look about 50, so I'm assuming your parents had you in their mid-50s, which is absolutely amazing. Look, half the reason here is it was our grandparents, Bev, that were children during the war, you know, or teenagers as my grandparents were. So those stories were passed down to our parents, perhaps talked about more frequently. Now, I'm not having conversations with my daughter regularly about how important the end of that war was, or how important it was for the Allies to have victory in that war. Perhaps I could be doing more also, particularly given everything I just said with regards to the way the world is going right now. We're being split down similar lines. The trouble is, it's flipped now. From my perspective, it's flipped in the sense that a lot of the problems aren't coming from the right wing anymore. They're coming from the left wing in the sense they're enabling it, but they don't know it. So if we were talking about it more, they might understand what they're doing.
And we've got this younger generation. I'm going to be talking to an Army veteran in just a moment about this. We've got this younger generation who have been indoctrinated, and I don't use that word lightly actually, in the education system, to believe in a borderless world where everybody is the same, this one planet living utopian idea that it doesn't matter where you're from, it's all about being a human being. We have one planet and we're all human beings on that planet. That's why the concept of fighting for your country, to have your own identity, is so alien to them, this younger generation, because it's so opposite to what they're being told they should aspire to, which is where everyone is the same.
Yes, look, this is really, really important, Bev, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because socialism, communism is about forced equality. You cannot have forced equality without an outcome of totalitarianism or authoritarianism, because what left-wing politics does, unfortunately, it denies human nature. This is my theory, let's call it the Cox theory, it is that right-wingers are much more in touch with humanity and the reality of humanity, whereas the left have this ideal view of the world where they assume everything can be a certain way, and it never can. It's really sad that it can't, but it never can. So the idea of forcing equality always leads to trouble. It's inevitable because it's not within human nature, Bev.
Yeah, and if there's one thing we saw in those world wars, it was the worst of human nature, and we ignore that at our peril. And that's maybe the reminder to the kids, in a sense, is not just about weren't we amazing? Didn't we and our allies pull together to defeat these amazing forces, but also be wary of how bad humanity can actually be, because it will creep up on you again if you're not careful. Let me go to my guest, as I just said now, US Army veteran who served in Iraq, Justin McClain. Justin, thank you for joining us on The Late Show Live. You heard our discussion there. How few young people know about VE Day and what it meant, how it defined their existence in the 21st century. But also, Justin, why do they need to understand, from your point of view as somebody who has served?
So first of all, I love the Cox theory. I am going to write that down and subscribe to that. It's important that we continue to teach our history to our young people, both the good and the bad, because we need to have open eyes when we go into conflicts. I mean, very famous statement is, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I mean, I know for a fact that we talk about, World War II. Most people in the United States don't even know that December 7th was Pearl Harbor. And now I've talked to young people, and we talk about September 11th, and they know about the World Trade Center, but they don't remember Flight 93 or the Pentagon. And it's very, very important that we, as parents, teachers, and other leaders, to teach our kids about the good, the bad, and the things that we needed to learn, so that we're not doomed to repeat these things, and we don't have a young generation going into the military who have no idea what combat or battle looks like.
Well, maybe to my point, Justin, about the fact that they're being raised to see this one planet world, a borderless Earth on which people should be able to come and go, and that nobody owns a country. It is the world that is there for everybody's taking. Maybe it is us warmongering oldies that should be taking a leaf out of their book. Why is it a bad thing, maybe, if this younger generation aren't so preoccupied by war?
They need to be very aware that war exists, and I mean, look what's going on right now in Iran. We have all this conflict within media, left-right media, understanding that some of these things have to happen. It's not like anybody wants to go to war. As a combat veteran, I didn't want to go to war. My grandfather served in World War II. My father was in the Air Force during Vietnam. So I was made very aware of kind of things. But it's that strange utopia of, if you don't think about war, you won't have to deal with war. And it's like, well, there's two sides, and not everybody is good. I mean, Hitler thought everything that he was doing was right and just, and that he was on the right side of history. And of course, we know he was not. But these kids are not being told that, they're being told if we don't defend ourselves, and sometimes a good defense is a perfect offense, that they're just going to leave us alone. And it's really naive and kind of scary.
It's also something to do with, isn't it, about sacrifice, Justin, as well, and the idea that you can, the understanding, the comprehension that all those men, and to a lesser degree, obviously, in that period of time, women who were fighting for our countries, were making a sacrifice on behalf of the national identity, and I get a little torn in this time of luxury communism, which we seem to be walking towards. In fact, you can drop the luxury a bit these days. This idea that the collective is always more important than the individual. I'm slightly troubled by that terminology, but there's something about the wars that we went through from which the lessons must be learnt, that you need to make sacrifices for your nation. And maybe we've got a generation, Justin, who are just very selfish and don't really sacrifice anything for anybody except always thinking about themselves.
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, we have people running around talking about truth as it's a personal thing. Truth doesn't change when you leave the room. Everybody's talking about what my identity is and what my opinion is, and don't hurt my feelings, and that's not my reality. I agree that they're being fed this. You don't like it, you don't have to deal with it. Here in the United States, we have this great sense of security that nobody's ever going to invade our country. But nobody's going to ever invade our country because we spend so much on our defense. We have great diplomats, and we have all of these things that we're willing to use. And everybody who's rallying around this anti-war, no military, no borders thing, it's a dangerous. It's a dangerous proposition that we need to teach the young. Listen, if you open the borders up, terrorists are going to walk through. There are people who do not like you because you're Christian or you're white or you're American. And it's unfortunate. It's the way the world is. I would love to live in a perfect utopia where we can all get along.
Yeah, and it's actually a uniquely kind of westernized myth, isn't it, Justin? Because you can, if Europe is there celebrating a borderless world, watching the identity of Europe crumble and become unrecognizable, guess who's not doing that? Russia's not living like that. China's not living like that. It's uniquely our problem, it feels, in the West, and the deterioration of such. Do you share that vision?
I absolutely agree that, and they hide it behind, if you don't allow these people to come in and change your entire way of life, you're racist, or you're Islamophobic, or whatever it is. I agree. It's absolutely a Western thing, because we try to be the beacon of hope for the world as Western society, in the UK, in America, Canada. And so we try to live at a higher standard, and right now everybody's trying to think that the higher standard is being welcoming and letting everybody in. Well, there's other things that need to go along with that. There's justice and righteousness and morality, and they're falling by the wayside.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Justin. Justin McClain there, US Army veteran who served in Iraq, and thank you for your service to America. I say as a Brit, but we do appreciate you very much so. You know what I'm thinking as well, guys, as we're doing this topic, is there's something about victimhood, right? What our kids are taught all the time at school now is everyone's a victim, right? They're always being taught to be a victim for whatever it is, because their identity, or someone's slighted them with the way they said something, or a teacher told them off they hadn't done the homework, whatever it is. Teach them about war. It teaches them about the not being a victim.
Sure.
Stand up for yourself, win something. Stand up for your country, win for your country. That's why I think they're not getting taught it, because you've got a whole generation of teachers who don't believe in that.
Right. I mean, and again, especially the state school teachers here in the U.S. That are in the unions, but the private schools and the Christian schools are still teaching civics and history. And you have the 250 celebration coming up. Even Ken Burns, who's kind of a lefty, has a documentary out right now about the American Revolution. So I think it's not as bad as we think.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect because the state schools.
What do you think, Angelina? This idea that you've got this younger generation, 14 to 29, they've been taught to always think about themselves. You can't love anyone else until you love yourself. They've got to sit there reflecting on, do they have a mental health condition? Have they got a learning need? It's been a sort of they've marinated in this narcissism that we're now, guess what? They don't care about a war. Doesn't affect them. They're just selfish.
I mean, everybody's selfish. I think that the Republican stance always has come from a point of that people are always driven by their own self-interest, right? So whether or not how this generation drives what it motivates them versus the older generation, of course it's different. I think that mental health is a good thing. I think that, my parents definitely didn't have access to the mental health care and the emotional awareness that we have now of other people. I think that this next generation is a lot more empathetic and sympathetic towards other people's and their feelings. And I think that's actually because maybe they're empathetic towards their own feelings, but they're also that way towards other people. And so I think that's also a sign of unselfish behavior. So everything's very nuanced, right? It's not black and white. It's very nuanced.
I see the pendulum swinging. I see the younger generation coming through, and they are rebelling against that. The younger than this. What's after Gen Z? Is it
Alpha, right?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Alpha. Do we start again?
Yeah.
We've gone back to A now. We've been through Gen Z.
Yeah.
That lot, the under 14s, under 15s. Brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a generation coming through that are completely rebelling against that.
Yeah, good.
Kind of
Returns to
self-indulgent
sort of traditional
narcissism.
values.
Yeah,
I think you see a little of that in Gen Z too.
you do actually.
Yeah.
The younger end of Gen Z. Yeah. Right. Moving on now. Another story that's just dropped. Similar topic actually. A teachers' union is raising concerns over safety following a rise in abuse from parents, including threats, verbal attacks, and online harassment. It's a report that suggests that some parents and carers are using tools such as AI, covert recordings and social media to make complaints, accusations and threats against teachers. Now this week, teachers at NASUWT Scotland's annual conference will call for clearer guidelines for handling parental complaints and urge officials to take action against malicious threats. Let's talk now. Oh no, we've got a teacher to talk to, just as I've spent the last 20 minutes criticising teachers. Carla, I didn't know you were waiting in the wings. Carla Orker, former primary school teacher and founder of the Neurodiversity Parent Guide. Oh no, I bet you want to open a can of whoop-ass on me right now, don't you, listening to what I've just said about teachers indulging too much mental health issues, Carla.
Absolutely not.
I will let you have your say. Well, listen, above all else, though, as much as I think there are a lot of teachers who are creating this younger generation who are obsessed with themselves and always see themselves as the victim, and they're not empowering them to take on life, to say life is tough, but you are tougher. I also think it's awful when parents start criticising teachers, especially if they do it with the knowledge of the child. What's happening here, Carla?
Do you know, honestly, I think most parents are trying to advocate for their child, especially if they think there's something going on underneath the surface. And I think difficulties grow when communication is lost between teachers and parents. Yeah. And there is this middle ground where conflict arises, and that can be so negative because actually what is lost is what we need to support the child.
And at that point, some angry parent who maybe hasn't had time with the teacher to maybe vent their frustrations and they've not been able to listen to each other, that angry parent goes on Facebook and says, you know, Mrs. Smith, the maths teacher, is a nightmare and she's rubbish at her job and she's told off little Jimmy and blah, blah, blah. Is that what's happening here?
I think potentially, yes, and I think social media and chats and AI, it removes the context of whatever that particular situation was, and then anxiety spreads so very quickly online. And I think when parents feel unheard, conversations that once would have stayed quite private and positive and constructive all of a sudden get blown out of proportion.
Because we've all been on the school WhatsApp group, Carla, and you've all been on the class WhatsApp group, and it just takes what used to happen at the school gates now happens on the school WhatsApp group, and somebody will say, I don't know about you, but I think they haven't handled this very well, and then you get a massive pile on. But what do you think the schools should do? Should there be stricter leadership about this issue?
Goodness me, I think every school handles things so very differently, and I think that's sometimes where we're seeing such social media hysteria, because different schools have different expectations. I think certainly their policies should set out exactly what their expectations are between communication with parents and with teachers. But I think most importantly, all parents and all teachers are coming from the same standpoint. No teacher wants to go to work and do a bad job and not listen to a child or not respond to what's going on. And no parent wants to have their child come home from school and tell them how very upset they are, have massive meltdowns and be full of anxiety. Underneath it is a child that we need to communicate with together in order to provide the best possible learning experience for that child.
Yeah, and you do wonder actually whether we didn't used to have WhatsApp groups, and do you know what? School used to tick along okay, and the school used to just be able to communicate with the parents at home, sometimes via a letter. Call me old school, but I still quite like a letter in a bag, because you can read it and you can stick it on the fridge and it can remind you, and you're not having to go through the hassle of log on to a computer every time or your phone to find the email amongst 35 other thousand emails you've got. Nightmare. And I just wonder whether the pendulum will swing, Carla, and actually maybe heads will say no WhatsApp groups. We would rather you didn't have WhatsApp groups, because at the moment you get given everyone's number on an email and everybody sets up a WhatsApp group and then you back and forth. Sometimes it's useful, but I wonder whether you'll get to the point where heads can be strong and say, you don't need them, we will communicate with you.
I think strong heads have the courage of their conviction to stand up and really clearly lay down guidelines for positive use of WhatsApp groups. At the end of the day, every parent and every teacher, every school is there for the best interests of a child, and that needs to be at the forefront of everybody's mind when they're communicating, whether that's via WhatsApp, via email, or face-to-face. What we're there for is the child who is in the middle, and that must be the most important thing.
Yeah, good point. Well said. And we actually don't hear that very often, do we? Carla Orca there, former primary school teacher and founder of the Neurodiversity Parent Guide. Thank you so much for joining us. Can I have a little chat to my panel about this? Let's bring us all in on this. When you were younger, Angelina, if you misbehaved at school, would your parents go in and say to the teacher it's their fault, or go online or do anything publicly? Did they side with you or the teacher?
They definitely sided with me, but it's interesting, Bev, because I was a hardcore conservative raised in California, going to California schools. Growing up, my parents are hardliner conservatives. Of course, I don't stand that way, but I do recall, I wrote an essay on pro-life, on why we should choose pro-life, and I got a C on the essay, and my mom went into the teacher and felt like they were teaching us that we need to be pro-choice, and that was the standard. And so there were actually quite a lot of debates that came down to political issues between my family and the public school system. So
oh wow, yeah. so they would defend you,
defend me, and
because they felt politically you were on their page.
Exactly. And so actually that's one of the reasons, fun fact about Angelina, that drove me into wanting to be in the political spaces and understand the truth, is because I was raised in such a conservative family, in such the most liberal democratic region in America. So I had these conflicting ideologies at home and at school, and it definitely gotten me into trouble a lot. So I
think we could probably on this panel all relate. I have to say, because basically any school in London now is probably not dissimilar to a Californian school, in that they're all sort of super woke and super lefty, and we've got three parents on this panel who would probably all consider ourselves small c conservative now, for want of a better definition. I don't know what that means. Our kids are going to grow up like Paul Cox.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, but there was never like an issue of like me not doing my homework, right? It was always this kind of like political issue or something like that. So
yeah, you've got this culture clash though, Paul. But you see, when I was younger, if I misbehaved, my parents would, and I didn't because I was a girly swat, but my mum would absolutely have believed the teacher. She wouldn't have believed anything if I'd said, no, it's not true, it's not true. They would always have sided with the teacher. That is a particularly significant change of the last, 30 years, Greg?
Yeah, I would say 30 years, because, I mean, to answer your earlier question, my parents would always believe the teacher, and the teacher was usually a nun or a brother or a priest. So, if I got slapped around by a nun, I was afraid to tell my mother or explain to my mother why I had a bruise or something, because I didn't want her to go in and talk to the nuns, find out what I did. So yeah, no, they always sided with the nuns, and by the way, they were right.
I feel like I've got to know you two a lot better in the last 5 minutes. This has turned into a therapy session, Paul Cox. What do you want to say? Tell us your
Absolutely
confession.
brilliant. I mean, it does sound harrowing in the US, getting slapped around by nuns, having to write essays about abortion.
It's a long time ago.
Some people pay good money for that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that the way our parents they valued teachers perhaps a little bit differently. I don't know quite what's happened. That profession was always held in high regard, but less so now. Even by you, Bev, on your own television programme, you criticise teachers in the same way as I do. I think, for me, this is what I think of teachers now, genuinely, is they never left school. They went to school, they went to college, they went to university, and then they went back to school. And that is a major issue, because they are taught one ideal all the way through there. There's one channel of political thinking all the way through that. Just listening to that teacher, I could tell. I mean, she'd even adopted the primary school tone. I almost felt like I was being told off, but in a very kind way. And, of course, we all just want what's best for the children. Now, and this is the trouble, right? The idea that you can have everybody wanting the best for a child is also nonsensical. The people who want the best for the child are the parents. There's a school curriculum and the way that works. And what's happened now is those two things have meshed. We've got schools that believe that they should be teaching children how to be, not how to learn, how to be. And therefore we got this situation where all schools are generating children that all think the same way. Now I mean, Angelina, go on, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, and actually, in order to not upset anyone, because the worst thing you can possibly do, apparently in the 21st century, is to ever upset a child by uttering a statement from which they may be offended, none of these robust conversations are happening in the school place. You might have remembered my just 17-year-old was on GBNews a few weeks ago because she was defending Kanye West's right to perform in the UK, and she was saying that the government shouldn't say who should not have artistic freedom. And one of the teachers in her school eventually spoke to her about it. I said they should have congratulated her on it, and I said I can guarantee if she'd been on the BBC saying Kanye West should have been cancelled, you'd have had an assembly about how great she was. But I said because she's been on GB News and she's defended a controversial decision, not one teacher's congratulated her on having the absolute backbone to go on national TV and do that. One teacher did eventually go and talk to her this week and said, oh, by the way, well done, Kiki. She said, I went on TV once and talked about the Green Party. She said, but we're not going to talk about politics, are we? And I thought, no, talk about politics. That's exactly what you should be doing. If she doesn't know what my daughter's politics are. She can probably guess, but she doesn't know explicitly what her politics are. But I thought, no, say to her how fascinating you've been on GB News, how fascinating that you believe that position. I would probably disagree with you. Let's have an assembly about that. But no, we're not going to talk about politics, are we? You can't say that, can you? And I'm sorry, that the seeds of that were sown in 2020. You'll say I always come back to the pandemic, but the idea that you can't have conversations without upsetting another person, that started in 2020 and it's only got worse. Right, still to come on the Late Show Live before I go down a COVID rabbit hole. We're going to look at the newspapers and get an update on the Madeleine McCann case, which of course you'd think under normal circumstances would be all over the papers. It's getting on to 20 years, this case, and you would think when someone was about to be charged, this is all we will be talking about. Let's get into that in just a minute after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, a very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For many, today's actually looking largely dry. There will be some sunshine around, but worth noting it's not dry everywhere. There are some outbreaks of rain across western parts, so parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, around Wales and southwest England. Also some outbreaks of rain coming in to eastern areas as well. In between though, yes, a lot of dry weather, some decent sunshine to be had as well, just nowhere near as sunny as it was this time last week. Temperatures are a bit lower than yesterday. That's because we have cooler air that's made its way down from the north. So we're only looking at highs around 15 or 16 Celsius towards the south and a few degrees lower than this towards the north. As we head into this evening, there is an area of low pressure to the northwest of the UK. It's staying quite far to the northwest, but nonetheless, things could be turning a bit breezier across northwestern Scotland. Some clouds, some outbreaks of rain, sunnier towards eastern and southern parts of Scotland, and some sunny spells across much of northern England too. A bit of rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and also eastern England. The Midlands having a decent amount of dry weather, but it's in the southwest as we go through this afternoon into the evening where we could see some heavy thundery showers developing. So do watch out for those. Then overnight, more cloudy, blustery, wet weather across northern and western parts of Scotland as that low pressure edges its way ever so slightly closer. Elsewhere, there'll be a bit of cloud across western parts, a bit of rain at times, but also some clearer spells. And similar to some recent nights where we get those clear spells, could be cold enough for a touch of frost in some prone spots. Most places, though, holding up a few degrees above freezing. And then into Thursday, a blustery, wet picture towards the northwest of the UK. Elsewhere, a bit of cloud across northern parts of England, some parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain too, and these pepping up a little bit across parts of Wales and the southwest. Further east for the Midlands, eastern parts of England, staying largely dry and temperatures maybe up a degree on today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, let's delve into some of the main stories. Oh, you caught me fixing my bra strap on the front of tomorrow's newspapers. If you're listening on the radio, you missed that. The Times, new powers to treat Iran proxies as foreign spies. Not funny. That is criminals acting for Tehran could face 14 years in jail. The iPaper are leading with millions face flight cancellations. A jet fuel shortage deepens and Iran's ceasefire falters. This could be bad news if you're thinking about going away anytime soon. Hopefully not. I can't bear this direction of travel or non-travel. Metro, a target on the backs of UK-Iran critics. They say after martyr call, fear over kill list plot. The Guardian, Labour under pressure after UK borrowing costs, and a picture of Beyonce, who went to the Met Gala for the first time in several years. Apparently that's a big deal. Are you bothered about that, Angelina?
The Met Gala? No. Doesn't bother
Are you,
me.
Greg? No.
You want to blow 100,000 on a dinner? That's cool.
Yeah. No, I do not.
I wouldn't go, but
no.
You know, it's.
You'd look good
okay.
in that outfit. Daily Telegraph. Starmer could cost us election, says Welsh leader, and civil servants fake office attendance in work from home scandal, and a picture of Sophie Wessex there on the front page of the paper. I don't know quite what she's doing, but it's something to do with probably the Science Museum or something, I imagine. And the Daily Mail, 30 Green candidates probed over anti-Semitism. Millions of middle-class voters galled by Polanski's cuddly rhetoric need to understand it's guaranteed to end in penury? That's a very penury, meaning being poor, but it's a very archaic word that people don't use often. Misery and despotism. Penury, very Daily Mail word. And the Sun is leading with come cry with me. 13,000 flights axed for May, holiday chaos over fuel shortages, and I couldn't help but notice that model on the picture looks like the Princess of Wales, who we just now, she's going away on a trip, she's got that jumper. And the Daily Mirror,
true, we're
still the only ones on your side, they say. That is the Prime Minister's election message. We've boosted workers' rights, reduced NHS waiting lists, created 2,000 new GPs, stood up to Trump over the Iran war, and we promise better is on the way. That's that's just a propaganda front page, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. And the Express, we've covered this story already, unremovable. This is about the tiny proportion of asylum seekers, illegal migrants, economic migrants, refugees, pick your title, whoever get removed from the UK. And the Telegraph is reporting that Madeleine McCann suspect Christian Bruckner cannot be extradited to Britain to face trial because of Brexit. This is according to German officials. Now, a German government spokesman has told the Telegraph that the country could not extradite criminal suspects to non-EU countries under strict rules in its post-war constitution. Now, asked whether Brexit had in effect blocked the UK from extraditing suspects such as Bruckner, a 49-year-old convicted paedophile, the spokesman said yes, that is the case. And the disclosure raises fears that Bruckner will never face justice in Britain over Madeleine, despite a renewed push by the Met Police to secure his extradition. And let's just talk about this for a minute, because I was at home in the UK over the long, lovely bank holiday weekend, and I heard this story breaking on Alex Armstrong. I seem to think Alex Armstrong was on. Was it Sunday night? I don't know what day. Is it last night? The night before? Anyway, one would think the Madeleine McCann story being solved would be leading every news headline. This story has been massive for 20 years, Greg. Why are we all so sort of like, meh? They think they're going to charge the guy?
Maybe people are just getting used to these outrageous stories, and it is an older story. It is, and I hate to see the Germans doing this. Blaming the fact that they won't extradite this lunatic because of Brexit. I mean, that's just a way to punch the Brits on Brexit again. So. But yeah, it's a great question, Bev. I can't explain it.
Paul Cox, do you share my sort of befuddlement at the fact that it appears that they're going to charge the man that we've all been looking for 20 years, and everyone's a little bit sort of casual about it? I'm desperate for the McCanns to come out. I want to hear from the mum and dad.
Yeah, look, I've got a conspiracy here, so it's just my opinion. But I don't think Bruckner is actually ever going. I don't think he's ever going to be charged. He is a convicted paedophile, but his modus operandi was entirely different to Madeleine McCann. His victims were, on average, aged between 17 and 80 years old. Anybody who's has shown any real interest in this story will know that this story in particular is about Brexit. It's not about Madeleine McCann. It's just having a pop about Brexit. That's one thing. And they often will this story out whenever there are other big stories going on, because it's great to move things off the front page. The first, Bev, you might not know this, but you'll love this. The first time that Chris Bruckner ever came to our attention was week 1 of lockdown in 2020. That's when the story broke. That's exactly when the first story broke on Chris Bruckner. And every now and again, this story comes out when there's news to be moved along, Bev.
How interesting. So your theory being what?
That I don't think that he's going to be charged. I don't think that this. The reason there isn't a kerfuffle about it is because I don't think the McCanns believe he's going to be charged. I don't know if he did it or if he didn't. I don't know what happened to Madeleine McCann. I wish I did. I cannot imagine being in the McCann family position. But I've looked into this occasionally, and one thing I've learned is this particular story is very good to help move certain stories off of the front pages. And I think this is twofold, this story. I think, first of all, it's about Brexit. It's about saying, look what Brexit's preventing. And let's be straight about this. If this guy has done it and he's going to be convicted, they're going to move hell and high water to convict him and get into the United Kingdom. It's not going to matter whether we have Brexit or not. But, it's also true that in the very first week of lockdown, this story broke, and it was incredibly convenient, Bev, because there was a lot going on in that week that we all have questions about.
So you mean that when the story of him in the first week of lockdown in 2020 was in order to to distract from what was going on with the pandemic, but it was nothing but pandemic, or to hide the fact that he might be guilty? I don't think it's. No, I'm coming at it purely from covering up.
Purely from the perspective. By the way, this is obviously my theory. Therefore, it's not the Cox theory. We've already discussed that. That's got endorsement from someone in America. We've moved on. But this, what I'm talking about here is this story is very useful for moving stories off the front page. There are a lot of things that you don't want on the front page at the moment if you're a particular party leader. So why not bring this in? That's what I'm saying.
So it's what I know. I can think of other examples where the volume gets turned up or gets turned down on certain narratives by those who want to control the narrative. And therefore, I can think of other people, and I don't want to mention it right now, but there's another particular character that I think his presence gets turned up or turned down, depending on which direction we're being encouraged to look in. Is that what's happening here with this story?
It's like sometimes the governments release bad news at 5 o'clock on a Friday. So there's not a lot of press attention on it. And I think that's possibly the case here, where they don't want it on the front page because they know that they're never going to actually have a trial for this guy.
So my gut instinct is this is about the story as opposed to Madeleine McCann. What you're saying is you think that I'm sort of right on that, Paul, that my little alarm bell's going, why is this story feeling icky to me at the moment? It just feels inauthentic. And what you're saying is...
You're absolutely right.
Are you familiar with the Madeleine... yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bev. And one of the reasons I thought I'd mention it is because this is... I'm no expert on this whatsoever. And there are lots and lots of experts, in inverted commas, available to watch on YouTube if you want to, and take it as you will. But one thing I have learned with regards to this particular story, right, this happened right at the end of Blair's premiership. Just a matter of 2 or 3 months later, Gordon Brown come in, and a comms advisor for both Blair and Brown said this is the perfect story for the Labour government. It's a sweet-looking, blonde-haired white girl that will always grab the attention and wipe the front pages of whatever you need wiping. It's a terrible thing to say, Bev, because Madeleine McCann was 3 years old in 2007 when she went missing. She would be 22 today. 22. So this is 19 years old this week. 19 years old this week. So I just noticed a pattern with this particular story, that whenever it comes up, whatever guise it comes up in, particularly over the years, it's often used to wipe the front pages of something else.
You see, I would want to hear... Are you familiar with this story, Angelina, of Madeleine McCann? Was it big in America?
I mean, I wasn't familiar with the story. I just learned about it.
Really?
Yeah, prepping for the show, yeah.
God, that's so fascinating, because when this little girl went missing, as Paul says, blonde, blue-eyed, beautiful, middle class, parents are both doctors, holiday, quite an expensive resort holiday in Portugal, parents were all sitting around drinking Chianti and having tapas, and the kids were left asleep in the room. As sometimes those middle class holidays, people do that kind of thing, and the parents pop back and check on the kids, and you take it in turns. Very few of them do it since this case, because it was so high profile that somebody came in through the window, nicked this beautiful love little girl, left her 2 younger siblings in the room, and she's never been seen again. And of course, thus ensued the biggest media focus that we had ever seen in our time in terms of a missing person, and she's become the poster girl for this missing girl. It's hard to overstate how well known the name Madeleine McCann is in the UK. It captures the imagination of every generation as well, doesn't it? My children know about Madeleine McCann, and they were born well after she went missing. Everybody knows the name Madeleine McCann. Grandparents. It taps into your worst nightmare as well, doesn't it? Taps into, it could have been me there, but for the grace of God, go any of us, blah, blah, blah. So when they announce, we think we have so much evidence that we're going to charge this person, you just think champagne corks are going to be going off. You just think that's why this doesn't stack up for me. And where are the parents? Because you would think if they had been included in this conversation, wouldn't they be also on every single TV show saying, we're so happy you've caught him, we can finally sleep at night, the evidence is there, the categorical evidence, the forensic evidence, that this is the man that caused our nightmare, and now we're going to find out where they buried her, and all that. I've got none of it.
No, because they don't have that evidence, Bev. I almost guarantee you they don't have that evidence. They spent £14 million, 1-4, on the police investigation alone. £14 million. We've never done anything like that for missing children in this country, ever. And it's because of all the things that we've talked about. Very sad to say this, but it's the perfect story. If you are detached from this and you're not part of the McCann family, and it's 19 years later, and there's no emotion, none of your emotion associated to this, why not use the story to your benefit politically? It's not the worst thing a political party or political leader's ever done, and it's often used. It's often used in that way, Bev, and I hate to say it, and I hate to be the person who's talking about it, but that's just what I believe.
No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. What would you say is the most famous American missing child case in this country? Do you have anything similar?
Yeah, Charles Lindbergh, the famous aviator.
Yeah.
His son, I believe, was kidnapped in the 20s, and it was, it was massive. I mean, obviously before my time. Maybe some of the viewers don't agree. But yeah, so that's probably the most famous one in history. I think there are a handful of sort of serial killers that have been front page, massive front page. Son of Sam in New York in the 70s, of course, and a handful of others. But no, missing children, I'd say Charles Lindbergh's son.
Elizabeth Smart, that was the one I was just looking at. But Elizabeth Smart was a big one. It's similar to what you're saying. It was a girl who was kidnapped. Her sister witnessed the kidnapping. So they broke in, they took her out of her room, and then she ended up being like this kind of crazy guy who thought he was Jesus. They ended up finding her a year or two later, a few years later. But yeah, she was kidnapped. She did resurface. But yeah, that was a huge story. It was similar.
Yeah, our inbox is saying they agree with you, Paul. Kez says why it doesn't stack up is because they haven't got the evidence. If there was real evidence, he would have been charged by now. Paul beat me to it. Agree with you, Paul, says Elizabeth. Dead cat theory, says Joanna. Gen Z says it's a distraction story. Brexit is nonsense, says Paul. Germany never extradite German citizens to be tried in other countries. Anyway, Paul Cox, the Oracle is enlightening us again. Top man, says Colin. All right, you can dial it down a bit, folks. And Jackie says, can we stop with this constant Madeleine McCann obsession? She had bad parents who left her alone. Can someone on the media call this out? I don't know. I think it was an easy. I've never ever blamed the parents for it. Go on, Paul. You want to say something?
Well, the Lindbergh child did appear again, unfortunately deceased. They just never found the people who kidnapped them, and there was a whole ransom note situation going on. And what I was going to say, because I don't know about the Elizabeth Smart case, but with regards to Madeleine McCann cases, there is no evidence that she is anywhere. The last place that she was detected was in that apartment, interestingly by a cadaver dog. So we don't know where Madeleine McCann is. There is no evidence, and they've dug up whole fields and properties of people that they've suspected and found nothing. Found nothing whatsoever.
Including Christian Bruckner.
Including Christian Bruckner, yes. And they found nothing. And I'm not suggesting that... I don't know who did and didn't do it, Bev, but what I do know is nobody else does either.
No, it's a very good point. And I'm going to start looking at this story in that same way now, Paul. I'm glad you've made me think about it like that. Is what is it trying to distract us from whenever we see this story the volume on it being turned up or down? Let's see what our audience is saying at home. Oh yeah, one of them is saying, did you fight in the Vietnam War, Greg? Paul Cox said you don't look any older than 50, and then somebody said...
My older brother did, but he's 15 years older than me, so...
Honestly, on this show, we give with one hand, and then we take away.
I'll take it. All good.
Yeah, to our viewer who said you look like you fought in the Vietnam War, no, you didn't. He was actually making an allegation that you wouldn't have fought in the Vietnam War because you had something wrong with your legs or something.
I would have, but I wasn't of the age, obviously. The peacetime draft had ended before I was 18. So
let's have a look. Oh, this is interesting. Alex says, Bev, I had a teacher. This is in relation to the conversation we were having earlier about so few Gen Z know what VE Days was. My teacher fought at Dunkirk and then again on D-Day. Then he became a teacher, said Alex. He taught with a different perspective to life than those wet drips, so-called modern-day teachers. To Paul Cox's earlier point that they get institutionalized by academia. And Jamie says, bless Bev for thinking it all started in 2020. In the real world, cancel culture was happening in 2009. Internet forum Banhammer, always a Marxist wielding it to protect the community. No, I think you're right, Jamie. It didn't all. Cancel culture didn't start in 2020, but it definitely went on steroids at that time. Right, more to come in the next hour. including this.
Celebrate America's athletic traditions and champions and physical fitness and all of those things that I work so hard at on a personal basis. I work out so much, like about...
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, a very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For many, today's actually looking largely dry. There will be some sunshine around, but worth noting it's not dry everywhere. There are some outbreaks of rain across western parts, so parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, around Wales and southwest England. Also some outbreaks of rain coming in to eastern areas as well. In between though, yes, a lot of dry weather, some decent sunshine to be had as well, just nowhere near as sunny as it was this time last week. Temperatures are a bit lower than yesterday. That's because we have cooler air that's made its way down from the north. So we're only looking at highs around 15 or 16 Celsius towards the south and a few degrees lower than this towards the north. As we head into this evening, there is an area of low pressure to the northwest of the UK. It's staying quite far to the northwest, but nonetheless, things could be turning a bit breezier across northwestern Scotland. Some clouds, some outbreaks of rain, sunnier towards eastern and southern parts of Scotland, and some sunny spells across much of northern England too. A bit of rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and also eastern England. The Midlands having a decent amount of dry weather, but it's in the southwest as we go through this afternoon into the evening where we could see some heavy thundery showers developing. So do watch out for those. Then overnight, more cloudy, blustery, wet weather across northern and western parts of Scotland as that low pressure edges its way ever so slightly closer. Elsewhere, there'll be a bit of cloud across western parts, a bit of rain at times, but also some clearer spells. And similar to some recent nights where we get those clear spells, could be cold enough for a touch of frost in some prone spots. Most places, though, holding up a few degrees above freezing. And then into Thursday, a blustery, wet picture towards the northwest of the UK. Elsewhere, a bit of cloud across northern parts of England, some parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain too, and these pepping up a little bit across parts of Wales and the southwest. Further east for the Midlands, eastern parts of England, staying largely dry and temperatures maybe up a degree on today.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Does Chopper need a coffee?
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Live from Washington, D.C., this is Bev Turner on GB News with the story shaping Britain and the United States of America.
Our approach, this government's approach, is to be tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime, and that means making sure that criminals face punishment, but also that we prevent reoffending and prevent crime in the first place.
Now, the headlines are describing it as Britain's wokest prison, but I don't actually agree with that definition. We will tell you what this story is actually about in just a moment. That's next. Also,
celebrate America's athletic traditions and champions in physical fitness and all of those things that I work so hard at on a personal basis. I work out so much, like about 1 minute a day max.
President Trump invited youth and professional athletes to the Oval Office today as he signed a proclamation restoring the Presidential Fitness Test Award. In a moment, I'm going to talk to a personal trainer for not one, not two, but three presidents. Also tonight.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have Kamikaze Dolphins, but I can confirm they don't.
That took a bit of a surreal turn today. Kamikaze dolphins. In a moment, I'm going to be joined by a military weapons expert who will answer the question, are there actually dolphins being used as part of the war in Iran? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Remember, no ad breaks. Warm welcome. Thank you for joining me this evening. My panel is Chairman of the Republicans Overseas, a man way too young to have fought in the Vietnam War, Greg Swenson, journalist and broadcaster, about whom I feel I've got to know you a little more, the insights in your childhood today, Angelina.
Yeah.
Angelina McCahay is with us. If you missed it, then it was quite a revelation. And in London, GB News contributor, comedian and creator of the Cox Theory, Paul Cox. And thank you all at home for joining us this evening. Now, a prison in Wales has been called Britain's wokest jail after it emerged that inmates can carry what they're calling neurodiversity passports, telling staff everything from what makes them anxious to which pronouns they want to be addressed by. So passports at HMP Usk identify prisoners with additional needs, including ADHD, dyslexia, autism, acquired brain injuries and learning disabilities. Prisoners can also flag sensitivities like noise or bright lights, or how they express distress, all to ensure that prison staff don't upset them. They also get yoga classes, therapy dogs, football, crocheting and a sensory garden. Is this a step in the right direction? Well, joining me now is William Person, former Team USA bobsleigh athlete and brain damage awareness campaigner. And great to see you again, William. Now, I saw this story and the headline that was chosen by the Sun newspaper didn't actually give any insight into the actual story, because this idea that inmates have a passport, what they're calling it, a piece of paper that tells you about their learning needs, is not woke, is it? I really take objection to that definition, actually. What do you think of it, William?
Well, I think what's going to happen, but just so you know, my background, I used to work in youth corrections. I used to run facilities, like that. So all it's going to do is going to give those people a target on their back. That's what I believe will happen. I don't think it's a good idea at all, to be very honest. But if you look at the bigger picture,
I'm surprised.
Yeah, and it's the inmates that's going to cause you the problems. The prison guards can treat you like royalty, but it's those inmates that's around there who, matter of fact, you just named off a whole list of things that is going to protect people from, like light sensitivity. the biggest thing you just hit, I'm trying not to go too far, too deep, but I think that depending on which study you look at, 60 to 80% of the inmates are in there because of untreated head conditions. And so that's the bigger problem.
Yeah.
And you just named off all of the issues that they deal with because of head injuries.
Yes. So things like sensitivity to lights and noise, because it can create hearing sensitivities, etc., etc. Do you then, as somebody that has an understanding of brain injury, how do you feel when that gets lumped in with all these other sort of learning disabilities, learning challenges, let's call them ADHD, dyslexia, autism, and I do think these things are overdiagnosed, but it's different, isn't it, with brain injury? And as you say, in prisons, 60 to 80% is one of the statistics we hear of inmates who have received some sort of head trauma, which has changed their personalities.
Well, I guess the best way to put it for me is I'm glad people are talking about it, because I'm gonna give you this. I hate making like blanket statements because it's a horrible thing to do. But what I've learned is most of the head conditions and problems in America, like between our athletes, our military, people who are domestic violence. If you look at all the people, when they check their brains upon death, they're finding CTE in that. So what I really believe is happening is CTE is the pandemic of our lifetime, but because it's misdiagnosed or it's not diagnosed at all. And that's why the symptoms look just like so many other things that we deal with. And so many people aren't getting the treatment. And if you go and look at every mass shooter that happens, they fall within 3 categories. And they're all related. It's either the veterans, they commit 35% to 45% of the mass shootings. The next group are people like me with head conditions who had concussions in their background. And then that third population is like I call them radicalized people as well as mental health people. However, their symptoms match the rest of us, and they say that schizophrenia can come from a head injury. So it's all related. I just think there's so many misdiagnosed people out there, and until we realize what it is, we're just causing a lot of problem for everybody.
So would you like, when inmates are taken to a prison, do you think everyone should be assessed via a scan for sign of traumatic brain damage?
Absolutely. I think it'll be too late to do it then. They need to get it preventative. They need to do it before. And if you catch them early enough, I promise you, they probably wouldn't be in jail, because those head injuries will make you impulsive. So if you just follow the people who are dealing with it, like our soldiers and our athletes. It's the same stuff over and over, but those symptoms, I tell you, they just look like they mirror so many other symptoms. So it looks like mental health, but it's a physical injury. And I think the last time I was on here, I thought about you quite a bit, because you mentioned a cyclist that you knew. And I didn't tell you how to show them how to get the help they needed, because with hyperbaric oxygen, it's fast. Like, it turned my life around in 1 hour. And that's not the norm, but it's less than a month, and you'll know right away if this is going to help you. Yeah.
Did you say a hyperbaric chamber? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen is the only way to remove the inflammation off of that brain. Matter of fact, that's what's behind me right here. This is my own personal chamber that I use in my home. Years ago, I couldn't talk. I was toast, and I was watching my teammates one by one commit suicide, and until Joe Namath showed up and told me about hyperbaric oxygen, and I tried it, my life changed. But I was a dead man walking myself. So I just opened up a 501c3. Yeah, all I do now is just help advocate for people. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, the internet made me out to be this. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, but we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, because this was a story about woke prisons, but I'm interested in what you're saying, and hopefully our audience is as well. So your theory would be then, William, if somebody arrives at prison and they are established to have been the recipient of a traumatic brain injury, it might not come as much consolation to the victim of their crime. We have to sort of say that. But would you suggest that this sort of treatment for inmates could potentially take away some of that impulsivity, aggression, lack of empathy, lack of reading a situation that might render them criminal, culpable then of criminal activity? Do you think this is the kind of treatment we should be giving prisoners?
I think it should be given before they become prisoners. Once they get there, it's too late, because I know the jail systems. I know how they worked. I worked in those places before. And once they get there, it's too late. Matter of fact, if someone knows they have a disability, they might even become even more of a victim, because those guys are predatory, and they prey on people's weaknesses. If they know you have something that's wrong, they're gonna probably target you. And I hate to say that, but that's just the way the prisons.
About what happened to you, William? Was it a bobsleigh accident?
Well, I raced for Team USA for 9 years, and they did an article. There's articles out there. I found out there was G-force spikes of 84.5 G-forces, which is enough to kill a person. And so I represent, like, I don't know, more than 700 athletes in court right now, just trying to get health care for the injuries that we sustained from just riding around in the bobsled. It's the only sport you can do perfectly and still get the same and come out with a brain injury. It's because it's designed wrong. The G-forces are too strong for the brain. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought maybe you'd had a crash or some sort of accident.
Well, I had 7 bobsled crashes.
That caused the damage.
Oh, well, I had 7 bobsled crashes.
I'm sure you did.
That I can remember, but yeah, I had quite a bit of those. But it's more so the G-forces got us. Matter of fact, if you look at the fighter pilots, F-15 fighter pilots, they have the same symptoms as us. They're dying from the same stuff: Parkinson's, seizure, strokes. It's all the same stuff. Like CTE is really the hidden pandemic for us. Yeah.
And CTE, what do you mean by CTE?
It's a head condition. It's chronic traumatic encephalopathy. If you look up the NFL, they made it famous because the doctor who was treating those NFL guys found it doing autopsy reports. But it's the one thing they now tell us what it is, but they don't understand that it's coming from domestic violence people who had been hit in the head too many times, people who had a car accident. The same way I diagnosed Kanye West, I'm the only person to publicly diagnose him with a head injury 6 months before he came out with his public apology. If you follow the symptoms, you will see what's underneath that thing. I don't care how you hit your head, but once it starts, you got a 10-year ticking time bomb. And after that 10 years, you're gonna know something's wrong. Now you have another 4 to 6. It's another blanket statement, but you have 4 to 6 years after that where you're going to become either suicidal or homicidal. And that's what this is. And no experts has come to me and say you're wrong. They've all come to me and told me I'm right. And but people aren't talking about it. And that's the scary part.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a charity in the UK called Headway that does some remarkable work in this area. Do you have any idea whether Kanye West has been using hyperbaric chambers?
Well, I've been waiting for the news to come out. If he has not been using it, he'll have more acting out coming out real soon, because this stuff is cycles. And so if he's not using it, we're gonna know real soon. But if he is using it, he'll stay real steady like he is now. He sounds pretty clear right now.
Well, William, it's always fascinating to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. William Person there, former Team USA bobsleigh.
And have your friend, the friend that you told us about. Oh, I'm sorry, let me cut you off. Have your friend.
It was my ex-husband.
I know, I was trying not to say that, but yeah.
Ex-husband.
Yeah. He'll turn him around real quick. Yeah, it'll turn him around fast. It's not like you need this for 6 months.
Thank you so much, William. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Right, my panel are still here. Let's. Do you want to talk about this just a little bit before we move on?
Yep.
Interesting.
Fascinating segment. William is a really intelligent person, and he knows his stuff. He was funny. He said no expert is suggests that I'm wrong. Well, he is an expert. I learned a lot. That was really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal with the NFL especially, but I didn't know about bobsledding. That's interesting.
It's a very controversial topic, though, because as we say in the UK, we think it's about 50% of inmates in prisons have received a traumatic brain injury, which rendered them more vulnerable to commit a crime. You see, the thing is, the brain injury charities they sort of shy away from that because they don't also want to stigmatise everyone who has a brain injury as being a potential criminal. So it's an area full of nuance. And then, as William was saying there, that actually if criminals can get some treatment beforehand, They may not end up in prison. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to our conversation from earlier is preventative care. Like, how are we going to prevent this? What preventative measures can we take?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring in Paul Cox there. Paul, the actual story was about the prisoners carrying around these passports that would identify them as having these conditions, and I was actually surprised to hear our guest there say that he didn't think that would be a good idea. I thought he'd say it was a great idea, but you know what he did? He did that thing that we don't do with socialism. He brought in psychology into the conversation and how it actually affects people in real life.
Yeah, and who better? He feels like he's a pioneer, William. Every time you've had him on, this might be the second time. It's certainly the second time I've encountered him while I've been on. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm glued, particularly when he talks about your ex-husband, Bev. I'm waiting to see what you might say about that. I'm inclined to believe him. I'm inclined to believe him because it feels like he knows. I'm sorry, Bev. That cup is definitely holding a laugh.
I'm impossible to offend, don't worry.
Look, I'm inclined to believe him because he has spent so much time. He's personally invested, he's personally been through it, and he's helping out a lot of other people. So I would listen to someone like that over perhaps a committee of people that have come up with a decision, Bev.
Yeah. And you see, I'm hypervigilant to brain injury. I can spot. I think I can spot you when you've lived with a man who has had a significant brain injury for 8 years. After, you get very good at identifying brain injury characteristics in communication, and don't see it at all with William. I pay close attention to him, and you don't see a pause, you don't see a slur, you don't see a losing his train of thought. He's the best advert for what he's talking about, these oxygen chambers. He's remarkable and absolutely amazing, and we should be listening to him because we're seeing it in soccer, aren't we? We're seeing it in soccer. I've been here too long. We're seeing it in football, even from the athletes who are heading the ball. We see it in rugby. Terrible small concussions with rugby players, even just at high school level, ending up with mood state alterations and epilepsy as well, and all these awful things that can really affect you. And we should probably be spending a lot more time listening to that man there. I don't know if we're going to move on to another story now. Where are we at with timings? 2:15 in the morning it is there. What time does that make it here?
9:15.
Thank you. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to travel to Rome this week for talks with the Pope at the Vatican following the fallouts from President Trump's comments. I just realised I made you the talking clock there, Greg. Sorry. In the last few hours, he weighed in on the upcoming visit. Have a listen.
The Pope is obviously the vicar of Christ, is a Roman Catholic, but he's also the head of a nation state, and it's an organization that has a presence in over 100-something countries around the world. And we engage with the Vatican quite a bit because they're present in many different places. I've already outlined to you 2 examples. We worked with the Catholic Church on the distribution of humanitarian aid in Cuba. We share with the Catholic Church a concern about the destruction of religious liberty, the persecution of Christian minorities, and also, the challenges that are being faced by Christians in Africa, where the Pope just recently visited. So we have a lot to talk about with them, and I engage with them quite a bit on that front. So the trip is really not tied to anything other than the fact that it would be normal for us to engage with them.
Secretary of State, the brilliant Marco Rubio, I mean, he's got to be a president in waiting, hasn't he? Meanwhile, Pope Leo has consistently rebuffed Donald Trump's remarks on the Iran war, and today he said the mission of the church is to preach the gospel, to preach peace. If someone wants to criticise me for preaching the gospel, I hope simply to be listened to because of the value of God's words. Greg, let me come to you on this. The president versus the Pope. I mean, it sounds like a terrible sort of sitcom or something, doesn't it? I mean, it's just an awful concept. Is the two of these men falling out? I don't like anything about it. It's sort of ludicrous.
Yeah, I wish it had never happened.
I do.
And I think Secretary of State Rubio can patch things up. I think he can do a good job. And by the way, the president's right. He's right on the merits that Pope Leo is not being honest. It's nice to use those platitudes and talk about the gospel. I'm a Catholic myself. But 40,000 people being killed by the regime, and the regime threatening the world if they had a nuclear weapon, or threatening the world anyway. The long list of atrocities that have been started and funded by the regime, I think that's relevant. I think that's a relevant point. And so I think the Pope is not being fair on this issue. It doesn't mean you want to get into a spat with him. I would just ignore it if I was the president, but I'm not the president, so so good for Marco.
Or the Pope. Is Marco Rubio the man that can pour oil on these troubled waters, do you think, Angelina?
Look, I find it interesting that, they say when the Pope speaks out against war, it's political, but when the Pope speaks out against abortion, it's not, right? So there's a lot of hypocrisy, not just from this administration, but talking about where the Pope can speak, where he cannot speak. The Pope, at the end of the day, can say whatever he wants. Whether or not Marco Rubio will sway him, I doubt Marco Rubio is going to sway the Pope one way or the other. He's pretty firm in his beliefs and how he feels about the gospel. And then you have a president, who is reactive. Like, why can't you just ignore it? You're acting childish when you're reactive. It's not a good demonstration of leadership coming from Trump. And he's also posting sacrilegious posts left and right. So, of course, these aren't going to be perceived well from the Pope. Now, whether or not Marco Rubio can soothe that over, I have no idea. I think that the Pope, he has agreed to meet with Marco Rubio. Great. Marco Rubio might tell him the same thing. Try and stay out of politics. Your job is the gospel. In which the Pope might respond the same.
And he's kind of avowedly Democrat, this Pope, isn't he? Isn't he? He's very left-wing, isn't he? From what we know about him.
I would argue that.
But Catholics are left-wing. If you look at the Catholic institution and how it's set up, look at payment structures.
No, I think the institution, leans left. I was educated by the Jesuits. They drive me crazy because they're so lefty. So, so there are plenty of bishops in the U.S. and U.S. bishops by most metrics are the conservative wing of the Catholic Church, but there's plenty of quite liberal bishops here as well. So, I'm not sure where it falls on, left versus right, but I do think I would agree with you, Bev. This Pope, much like Pope Francis, seems to be a man of the left, if they were to be honest about it. They don't have to, and I don't want them to be, but I think you could just tell that from the way that Francis behaved, as opposed to Benedict before him and John Paul II before Benedict, who were clearly conservative in nature.
The church still doesn't support gay marriage. It's still, pro-life. It's anti-abortion. Again, when I say the institution is left, I'm talking about how it's structured, how they're paying priests, how they live a life of poverty, how they sacrifice that, and how the new Pope is helping to use different properties which the Vatican owns in order to train and teach people about different farming tactics, and they're using it as an education platform in order to spread that to communities who are underprivileged. So in that sense, it's more left in it versus like a lot of evangelical institutions such as Franklin Graham, that's Trump's preacher. It's very capitalistic and they're chasing profits. Franklin Graham's making $1 million a year, right? Where your priest here in DC is making maybe $30K to cover his expenses. So, so it's really about that lifestyle. You lead by example.
Was he fly commercial?
But how does he make that? Like, who pays him? How do you make that much money?
Well, he actually quit the evangelicals. So there is a group for evangelicals for financial transparency in the U.S. and it's an effort to stop these mega churches from these like false, capitalistic views, because it's such a problem in that community of chasing those profits. And Franklin Graham stepped away from that. So we actually don't know because he won't be transparent about how his money is coming in.
I'm with you. The Catholic Church does so much great work, and it's charitable for. That's their thing, hospitals and schools, and they do great stuff. But if we're talking politics and criticizing what we're doing in Iran or whatever, that's a different topic. So I'm not suggesting that this Pope is a bad guy. I'm just suggesting.
But how
if we're talking
condemning
politics,
war versus how is condemning war any different than condemning abortion?
Well, it's really different because the church believes that abortion is killing an unborn child. So that's and they're consistent.
And war
they're also,
kills thousands
They're
of
also
children.
against, but there's the concept of the just war. And this is a just war because the regime, I think we can all agree, the regime are really bad guys. And by the way, the church is consistent on life. They're also against capital punishment.
So it's a just war then for kids to be a consequence of...
Yes, because that happens. It's sad and it's horrible, but...
And the Pope shouldn't be speaking out against that.
The Pope should have some balance and some context that this is a just war, just like World War II was a just war.
A dead life is a dead life. I feel...
Sure, if you want to be absolutist about it, and sometimes the popes tend to do that, some popes, but also many popes are realistic too. And so I think it's quite clear that the just war is not a new thing, and the papacy has been behind just wars on many occasions. Unfortunately, the papacy has also been behind some unjust wars going back to the Middle Ages.
Well, of course, it's gone through its own corruption cycles, but I think that as we've modernized, the church is actually moving in the right direction.
Let me just ask Paul Cox this, because Paul, what's occurring to me when I'm listening to this conversation is how inextricably linked religion and politics is in America, in a way that we just do not have the comparison in the UK at all, do we? Our politicians wear their religion very, very lightly.
Yes.
It seems. I'm trying to think of examples.
No, they do. We've got the House of Lords, where there are members of the Church of England, and perhaps even the Catholic Church, but definitely the Church of England within the House of Lords. So they're openly religious, obviously. I'd like to think so. And you could probably count on one hand across the 600 MPs the ones that you know are religious in some way, and I guarantee you 90% of them would be Muslim now. And that's not a criticism. It's just all independent Muslims now. Independent just is a pseudonym for Muslim or Gaza candidate, Gaza MP. We, along with our own identity as British people, with our British history, it's taboo. The idea that you could be a white British Christian and talk about it in a way that was positive, for a lot of people, is seen as taboo, which is utterly ridiculous. It's an excellent technique to silence people, make them feel guilty about their own identity.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, moving on. Let's return to that astonishing story we've been trailing this evening about kamikaze dolphins. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has refused to rule out whether the US is using kamikaze dolphins. This was him talking today.
Are there still concerns about mines in the strait, and can you kind of clarify these reports of kamikaze dolphins that we've heard about?
I haven't heard the kamikaze dolphin thing. It's like sharks with laser beams, right? The threshold of restarting is a political decision above my pay grade.
And I can't confirm or deny whether we have kamikaze dolphins, but I can confirm they don't.
So he said, if you couldn't hear him then, he said, I can't confirm or deny whether we're using them, but I can tell you that they aren't Iran. So let's find out from the director of the Centre for Defence Concepts and Technology at the Hudson Institute here in Washington, D.C., Brian Clark. Brian, what is a kamikaze dolphin? And what is the chances that they are being used in the Strait of Hormuz right now?
Well, you know, I guess a kamikaze dolphin would be a dolphin that's going to put a mine on a ship and maybe act as a suicide bomber and attack that ship. I think you'd have to convince the dolphins to do that. I think the problem would be dolphins are smart enough to recognize the mission that they've been given, and they're not likely to want to become suicide bombers. The U.S. Navy does have a marine mammal program that's been in operation for 50 years plus at this point. Out of San Diego, and they have dolphins that are there. They have pens where they come in and they come for their training, and they get fed while they're there. But the marine mammals, the dolphins can leave and come as they want. So they basically have chosen to support the missions that they've been given, which is mostly placing things on the seafloor and finding things like mines, or when an airplane drops like a bomb. A bomb falls off of an airplane. Marine mammals will go in, they'll find out where that bomb is, and they'll come back and tell us where it is so you can go retrieve it. So they've been doing those missions for, like I said, more than 50 years. And in theory, you could have them place a mine somewhere.
I've just got to stop you a minute because you're blowing my mind. Literally, my mind is exploding like a kamikaze dolphin right now with these truth bombs that you're giving me. Are you telling me that these sea mammals are voluntarily taking part in this project? They would be free to go, but they want to stay, and they can basically detect a bomb on the bottom of the sea, and then come back and tell someone there's a bomb down there. How does it work? I've got so many questions.
Well, they have sonar, so they use echolocation to both understand their environment and also to communicate with each other. So dolphins will, they get trained to go look for certain objects. So the trainer will say, here's the thing you're looking for. And the dolphin will understand. The dolphins will go out and find that thing in a given area, and they'll use their sonar to locate it. And then they'll come back and inform the trainer. They'll leave a marker there at the location where the thing is that they discovered. And then the people that need to retrieve it can go out there and retrieve it. So the dolphins act as a kind of like search dogs when they're going to look for dead body or whatever out in the woods. The dolphins can do that same kind of detection of objects in the sea environment, and they'll find things on the sea floor that we're looking for. So they're usually used to find unlocated things that come off of aircraft, things that get dumped off of ships or mines, and they get used for those missions. And they do it voluntarily, like I said, because they're free to not return to the marine mammal training area if they don't want to do that anymore.
How can I not know this stuff, Brian? How can I not have known about this before this conversation here tonight? Right, so that's the dolphins who are doing good. But you started by saying that the kamikaze dolphin is maybe potentially a mythical concept, because the dolphins are so clever that they would realize they were being sent to an inevitable death by what? Having a bomb strapped to their back. Like, come on, Brian, just talk me through that.
Well, in theory, so we do use the dolphins to go place things on the seafloor, like a sonar sensor that you want to listen in, for an area. So the dolphins will take that down and they'll place it on a location that you tell them where they go on the seafloor. So they get trained to do that. So in theory, you could use them to go place a mine somewhere, for example. But it's unlikely that they would want to go place a mine on something and then remain there to wait for it to explode. So they'll key in on the fact that there's something not right about the mission they've been given, because they are very clever. They do these missions voluntarily, like I said, and they have to be trained to do them over time.
I really want to bring my guests in on this because I'm sure they will have as many questions. And Paul Cox, I just know you've got a question for Brian Clark about this. And my mind is absolutely blown about this concept. Let me bring you all in here. Maybe the other question, Brian, then, is Iran won't have the capacity. Iran has not got, tell me if I'm wrong, have they got the equivalent of military SeaWorld? Because that is what we're talking about, where you're throwing in a fish for a dolphin that's getting educated on munitions.
We've seen no evidence of that.
Iran can't do that, surely.
Right, so we've seen no evidence of that, and it would take years to train up, obviously, a dolphin to be able to do these missions, and you have to build a rapport and have some kind of confidence in the trainer, so that you'd have to build a relationship up with these dolphins over time to be able to get them to do these missions voluntarily. So it would take years, and you would have evidence of that if that was happening in Iran. So I think it's very unlikely they would have established this marine mammal training program in secret. Nobody would have detected it, and for years have been doing it, and now they're going to spring it on us as like the secret weapon at the last minute.
Go on, Paul Cox. I know you've got a question that you're burning to ask, I'm sure.
So Maddie, I'm trying to make it you know, sensible though. I mean, okay, the idea. I mean, and this is very serious, but this. Well, okay, because this is quite serious. You know, I did a little cursory Google research before the show to find out, you know, how often dolphins have been used. They've been used for many years for lots of things, including sort of object recovery, marking targets, harbour protection, mine detection. All of these things they've been well employed. It says nothing about their wages here or whether they formed a union. I don't know I don't know if they have any rights.
They've got an agent.
Well, exactly. How do you choose the ones that are going to have bombs and cameras? I mean, have they been through extra special training? Can they hold their breath outside of water? I don't know how it works. But
right. Well, I think there's a breeding program, and they try to, you know, select from within certain, you know, bloodlines that have proven themselves to be pretty effective in the past. You know, so I mean, it's a lot like what you do what you have at a place like a SeaWorld, where you've got to have a program to be able to recruit and breed the dolphins that you think are going to be effective at it over time.
Brian, I know you're just booked to be on for a few minutes to talk about this. Show's over, mate. We're talking about this for the next half an hour. End of chat. This is no longer Bev's show. I have 400 questions. This is amazing. Bloodlines. So we have pedigree dolphins. Well, the US have pedigree dolphins that are able to. You know, this is like SAS Flipper.
I mean, there's you know, the program has to use a combination of dolphins that are bred, you know, domestically, and then there's some that you recruit in from the wild. But it's just like you have at any of these marine parks, where it's a combination of, you know, breeding at home as well as ones that are able to be brought in from the wild that are recruited into the program.
I love that there's ones that come in from the wild. They just turn up on recruitment day, probably smoking a cigarette, a little bit untrained, a little bit overweight. So you want me to? You want to blow myself up, mate? Do you? I love this.
But there's no evidence. The U.S. does not have a kamikaze dolphin program like, you know, like the Secretary said. But we do have dolphins that go out and will place mines. They're just smart enough not to stay there until it explodes.
Good. I'm pleased they are, Brian. This is absolutely brilliant.
Because I mean, I'm probably going to get a kicking by the animal rights lobby again. It won't be the first time on this channel, because I don't want to appear like I'm laughing at the idea that the dolphins would be harmed. I think this is amazing. I think I love this. I love this interaction of like nature and humanity trying to do good in the world. It is a plot of a movie, isn't it? That's what it's so Disney. This, and I'm seeing the character that you just described, Paul, rocking up with his cigarette, with his like anchor tattoos on him, you know. Just ready to go in there and get stuck in and probably be the hero, the rogue dolphin that saves the day. I mean, it's just so brilliant, Brian. But this idea of kamikaze dolphins, though, it sounds like America is sending out dolphins to die, and that's not what this is, really, is it? We can assume, and as you pointed out, they're too clever for that anyway. They wouldn't go.
Correct, and I mean, it was the Iranians that brought up the idea in the first place, right? This was all part of their, you know, propaganda campaign to try to convince the world that they've got a bunch of secret weapons in the back that they still haven't, you know, sprung on us yet.
Wow. I wonder what they do have that's secret.
The Iranians who've
I'm really interested to know what they've got. Have they got like kamikaze hamsters? You know, they just what have they got, Brian?
Yeah.
I know that.
Abu Hamster.
Abu Hamster.
They do have hamster.
Right. Unclear yet. I mean, if they had anything good, they would have brought it out by now. I mean, at this point, I mean, what are you waiting for?
It's a good point, Brian. Sorry to completely undermine your whole career here, Brian.
Very good point.
And obviously this is serious. This is about war, but this is also brilliant.
It's brilliant. But why wouldn't Pete Hegseth confirm or deny the use of military? Well, I nearly said hamsters then. That's it. Right. Why would he not confirm or deny that they might be using these? Because that would mean, therefore, that the IRGC will be on the lookout for particularly clever dolphins and maybe trying to take out the dolphins. Is that why he's refusing to confirm it?
Well, I think he's trying to do the normal thing of trying to avoid confirming any military capability that the U.S. might have. So he's trying to just avoid the whole question, by just leaving it open how the U.S. might employ these capabilities. But also I think it's just that he knows that we have this marine mammal program, and maybe doesn't have all the details. So he knows that we've got one. We know that we use them for placing mines potentially and recovering mines. So he doesn't want to get into a discussion about are any dolphins harmed in the conduct of these missions.
Do we have any idea, Brian, if any other countries have these marine mammal training programs to be used for this sort of purpose?
Oh yeah, the Russians have a long-standing marine mammal program. So it's a pretty, it's a long-standing program in Russia and the U.S. It's not a common thing around the world, but several militaries use them. I believe some of the other Nordic states also have them because they're useful. They're helpful and useful in finding things that are on the sea floor, and they want to be helpful to the U.S. to their keepers.
A question, please, Brian. Do you think there's any chance that the Russian and American dolphins have ever met, and have there ever been any American dolphins convicted of spying, or vice versa?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we haven't had any evidence of any turncoat, or prisoner exchanges, spy exchanges. We haven't had any indications of those.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Yeah. I'll make a note.
Brian, honestly, the memorable moments from this show, that is going to be one of them. Thank you it's such an education. I hope you Americans have never been more proud to be American. Yeah, that is literally what you do well here, isn't it? Is that kind of crazy research.
Innovation.
I don't know, it's kind of creepy. Honestly, the dolphin relationship with Americans has always creeped me out. Like the LSD program that they were funding that, and they were trying to have this weird relationship, human dolphin relationship, and it ended up being super controversial. It got shut down. But yeah, dolphins in general just creep me out altogether.
Well, can I give you my favourite dolphin fact? Brian, you'll know this. Do you know the only two animals in the world that have sex for fun are humans and dolphins?
Good trivia.
Yeah. Dolphins are also super are big sexual predators as well, which is scary. They had to close a beach in France, in the south of France, because a dolphin was being too sexually aggressive with patrons. And there's this famous Dolly the dolphin. If you guys are interested, you can go look up that documentary. It's about an inappropriate human-dolphin relationship. The dolphin definitely comes onto the human. So yeah, it's uncomfortable for sure.
Here's the thing
I want to get away from dolphins for a minute because
go on.
Yeah,
go on. Last
so the demining organizations like Halo Trust, which I'm on the board of, I have to plug that. They've been using dogs as well as these kind of they look like rats, but they're nicer than rats.
Yes.
And they use them to find unexploded mines and unexploded ordnance.
I get that.
In conflict zones, and they're just super well trained. I've seen a demonstration of it. It's amazing. The dogs are so smart, not as smart as dolphins, but
clearly,
but they can find the mine, and then they just bring it to the attention of their master.
I guess the thing is, I get it with dogs.
Right.
I get it with dogs. I just find the idea that a dolphin is doing it in water, I find that absolutely mind-blowing. Right, Brian, thank you so much. Apparently I'm going to show you a little video or something now. I think it's going to be quite inspiring for you. Oh, Ben Leo's just walked into you. Right, go on, show. Oh, there we go. An AI picture of, that is a kamikaze dolphin. According to Grok, what would a dolphin look like?
I thought they were Iranian.
That, Paul Cox, is exactly what you were describing. Well, not quite. He's a bit more, he's not quite as street, is he, than the dolphin that you were describing, that you and I had in mind with a tattoo and a cigarette. Right, well, that was one of the weirdest sections I've ever done on Late Show Live. We're going to go and calm down while you have a quick look at your weather. Thank you so much, Brian Clark. Fascinating. Come back anytime. Hello.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, a very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For many, today's actually looking largely dry. There will be some sunshine around, but worth noting it's not dry everywhere. There are some outbreaks of rain across western parts, so parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, around Wales and southwest England. Also some outbreaks of rain coming in to eastern areas as well. In between though, yes, a lot of dry weather, some decent sunshine to be had as well, just nowhere near as sunny as it was this time last week. Temperatures are a bit lower than yesterday. That's because we have cooler air that's made its way down from the north. So we're only looking at highs around 15 or 16 Celsius towards the south and a few degrees lower than this towards the north. As we head into this evening, there is an area of low pressure to the northwest of the UK. It's staying quite far to the northwest, but nonetheless, things could be turning a bit breezier across northwestern Scotland. Some clouds, some outbreaks of rain, sunnier towards eastern and southern parts of Scotland, and some sunny spells across much of northern England too. A bit of rain affecting parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and also eastern England. The Midlands having a decent amount of dry weather, but it's in the southwest as we go through this afternoon into the evening where we could see some heavy thundery showers developing. So do watch out for those. Then overnight, more cloudy, blustery, wet weather across northern and western parts of Scotland as that low pressure edges its way ever so slightly closer. Elsewhere, there'll be a bit of cloud across western parts, a bit of rain at times, but also some clearer spells. And similar to some recent nights where we get those clear spells, could be cold enough for a touch of frost in some prone spots. Most places, though, holding up a few degrees above freezing. And then into Thursday, a blustery, wet picture towards the northwest of the UK. Elsewhere, a bit of cloud across northern parts of England, some parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, some outbreaks of rain too, and these pepping up a little bit across parts of Wales and the southwest. Further east for the Midlands, eastern parts of England, staying largely dry and temperatures maybe up a degree on today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
So earlier today, American President Donald Trump invited youth and professional athletes to the Oval Office as he signed a proclamation restoring the Presidential Fitness Test Award. And in true character, he made this rather hilarious remark.
Celebrate America's athletic traditions and champions in physical fitness and all of those things that I work so hard at on a personal basis. I work out so much, like about 1 minute a day max.
So you can hear what he says, and he said basically he does exercise about 1 minute a day. And the test was introduced in 1966. It was awarded to children who met specific athletic standards before it was discontinued by the Obama administration in 2012. Because, of course, you can't have anybody being good at anything. It's just like lollies for everyone, and medals for everyone. But questions over the 79-year-old president's cognitive and physical fitness continue to make the headlines, despite medical clearance from his doctor. So we are asking whether presidents should be required to pass a fitness test. Let's talk to the former executive director of the White House Athletics Center, Dr. Ted Vicky, who served in the role for 11 years under Presidents Clinton and Bush. A very good evening to you, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk about the average fitness of the American president. Do you think they've got fitter as the years have gone on, or less fit?
Well, good evening, Bev. I think that the presidents, especially when I was there, were very fit. In fact, when President Bush came into office, I remember they had to get some Secret Service agents that could keep up with him. One of the most fit men I've ever met. So from a presidential perspective, we'll think of it this way. Those presidents found time to find exercise. So I think it's a great message for all of us. The President of the United States can find time to exercise. I think we all can.
But we heard from President Trump there that the most he might ever do is a minute in a day. He likes his golf, though, doesn't he, Ted? So we know that he likes to walk. But if you were looking at President Trump, what do you think he should be doing more of?
Well, if I were still at the White House, I would tell President Trump that I could help him play better golf by doing a little more cardio activity, probably stretching a little more, even some strength training, get those drives 200-300 yards down the fairway.
But he obviously works, he works crazy hours. He pretty much never sleeps. He's on his phone by all accounts, all times of the day and night. Should he, though, as you say, find some time to fitness? I don't know where he'd even remotely fit it in.
Absolutely. I mean, every person, teenagers all the way up to 80-year-olds, can find time to have exercise, get benefits from those exercises. So yes, I do think that any president should find time to do some sort of physical activity. In fact, if I were there today, I'd probably put him through the fitness test that he just announced today. See where he falls on the scale for other 85-year-olds.
And what kind of regime would the presidents you worked with do? How many times a week would they get to exercise, and at what time in the day would they do that?
I recall President Bush was a morning exerciser, so before his day started, he would exercise. President Obama, I wasn't there when he was there, but he was a big basketball fan. That's where he got a lot of his physical activity in terms of cardio. President Clinton was known to run outside of the gate to the White House through the streets of D.C. So they all have their different ways of exercise. Wow. But at the end of the day, they found time to do it.
And this fitness test that President Trump has announced today, do you know the details of that? What it would kind of measure? Is it just cardio, strength, etc.?
Well, I don't think that the details have been released yet, but if you look back from a historical perspective, usually a 1 mile run, push-ups, sit-ups. I think at one time there was even a softball throw to see how far you could throw an object. RFK Jr. mentioned that 77% of American youth today couldn't even pass the military standards when it comes to physical fitness. So I think this is probably a step in the right direction, pun intended.
And do you know, does the White House have a director of the White House Athletics Center, Ted? Or has your job disappeared now?
No, in fact, one of my former interns runs the facility now, so it's still in the family, if you will.
And what kind of sports facilities are there at the White House?
Well, there are a number of fitness facilities. Think of a gym inside of a corporation. We built one that was 10,000 square feet. It's actually built under the Reagan administration. The president has a facility off the Lincoln bedroom where he can go and his family can go. There's a basketball court that was put in 1991 by Duke University. There's a pool, very famous pool that Barbara Bush would use in the mornings to swim. There's even a tennis court. I think, if I remember correctly, the bowling alley may have been replaced, but President Nixon was a big fan of bowling, so he'd be there a lot.
And do you presume that first ladies, I mean, we don't know about this first lady, but in your experience, would the first ladies have also used these facilities to stay fit?
Absolutely, especially the ones that were closer to the residents. Probably the one up on the third floor of the residence would be one that the family would use.
Well, fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. Former Executive Director of the White House Athletics Center, Dr. Ted Vicky there, who served the role for 11 years. I learned a few things there about the sports facilities in the White House. I had no idea. It's important, though, isn't it, that presidents are fit and healthy?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there should definitely be a fitness test. I mean, it is a way to, force retirement. I think that we have way too many older people in politics, and they're building they're not building for the future. They don't understand the youth. They don't understand the next generation. They're living in an older world. So yeah.
Well, Biden was a great example of that, of course. Yeah. He couldn't have used a Stairmaster, I don't
totally,
think.
Yeah. I think a cognitive test is probably more important than a physical test, and that's one that Biden refused to do. But it's interesting. After the incident at the Correspondents' Dinner 10 days ago, there was a lot of discussion about who the line of succession, and because the vice president was there, and then Mike Johnson, the speaker, who's number 3. Number 4 is the senior most politician in the Senate, not the Senate majority leader, but just it's called pro tempore or something like that. It's Chuck Grassley. He's 90 years old. I mean, and in years ago, like when Reagan was shot, the number 4 would have been like in his late 90s. It was Robert Byrd. It's crazy. So
you think they should be more aware of the older line of succession coming through?
I think that's got to change. I think they should address that. It's not in the Constitution. It's something that they put into law perhaps after the JFK assassination. So it's not something that can't be changed, and I think they should.
Well, one of the criticisms of the Washington Correspondents' Dinner was how many of the top team were there in that room that night.
And that's why
Rubio was there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Scott Bessent was there.
Yeah.
And Chuck Grassley was not there. So let's say, I know that's really horrible to think, but let's say someone blew the whole place up. Chuck Grassley would be the president right now, which is, you know, I mean, I like him, but I like them at 70, not at 90.
Paul Cox, what's your fitness regime?
My fitness regime is almost identical to Donald Trump. I mean, I play golf once or twice a week. And sometimes, you know, I might get into a small canter if I trip up a curb trying to get into the GB News studios. I used to play a lot of sport, genuinely, when I was younger, up until about probably late 20s, early 30s. But I kind of let myself go to seed, and now my weight fluctuates. But I cut the lawn today, right? I've got a nice sized garden, and that was an hour and a half of work, and I really benefited from that. I've played about 8 games of golf this year now, so I've got my walking fitness up. I'm pretty much at peak fitness, Bev, and this is what it looks like. I'm like Ben Leo. I'm exactly the same as Ben Leo.
Nice to know. Well, Ben Leo just walked in the studio. He's gone out again. He's been out with our cameraman today watching football, trying to persuade me to go out for a drink after the show tonight. But it's 10 o'clock here, near almost, so I'm not sure I will. Now, thank you all so much. It's been quite an unusual show tonight. I think we'll all remember it, possibly for not necessarily for the right reasons. I feel like I've learned a lot about marine mammals this evening. Highlight for you?
Yeah, excellent.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Right. Goodbye, everybody. Sleep well. I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in America, midnight in the UK. Sleep well. Bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, a very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. For many, today's actually looking largely dry. There will be some sunshine around, but worth noting